Public Lands and Buildings Committee, June 5th, 2025.
Calling the Public Lands and Buildings Committee to order at 6:00 p.m. Members present are Terry Spiegel, Chris Mauritz, Clarissa Slater, and Sierra Chair. First up, we have public participation. Seeing none, we have the ODNR grant for All Miller Park Trail. Tommy, were you going to talk to us about that, or?
Tommy Starnes, Safety Director. I just need to make sure that the legislation gets done, and we have to turn it in ASAP or by the next meeting. So that's the only reason I'm here, is to make sure that the legislation gets done so we can sign all this and send it all in.
So what's the legislation?
I believe you have a copy of that, don't you, Brandon?
I do.
So.
No, that's not the one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's in it. I guess it's in the package too, so.
I'm like, that one's
But
Oh, no, okay. Yeah, that's not the one.
that's all.
Oh, the sample, okay. All right, so I would entertain a motion requesting legislation be brought up.
Wait, didn't we do that?
It's an emergency.
As an emergency for the ODNR All Miller Park Trail Grant Project. And we do have a,
More specifically, you want to authorize and direct the Service Safety Director to enter into that agreement to obtain those grant monies.
we don't have to write it up because it's theirs already, right? We don't have to write our own legislation?
It'll pretty much be writing it up based upon the agreement, so. And it'll be attached probably as an Exhibit A.
Thank you. All right, so do I have anybody? All right, I have a motion from Mr. Spiegel. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ms. Slater?
Yes.
Mr. Mauritz?
Yes.
Mr. Spiegel?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, the motion passes. So, as an emergency. All right, and then, although it's not on the agenda written out, we did receive this afternoon legislation drawn up for placing the land parcels that we talked about the last time into the CIC. It's like the last page of your packet. If you can look that over, see if you guys see any issues with it.
Okay, maybe I'm just having a hard time because I don't ever feel like the emails are getting.
If you check your packet where she printed it out for you over there.
She usually doesn't print the legislation for me to save paper, but maybe I'm just slow today.
You should have a revised packet underneath where I had sent you the original.
I'm looking at the last page and it's the platting letter that we got.
Yeah, no, not that one.
I was like, okay, let's see that. There we go.
What,
Certain property, what they,
these are all
Platting stuff.
plots. A couple of them are like 2-foot square plots in the middle of somebody's yard, but others are actual properties.
I'm not seeing it. Do we know what page it is on the emailed packet? Maybe you should just start printing them out because like I feel like it's never the same order.
Here, you can have that paper copy.
Thank you. That's my fault. I told you to not print them, so here we go. All right. And we referred this as an emergency.
I'm sorry?
Did we ask for emergency legislation?
We asked for the draft legislation.
Did we ask it as an emergency?
We did not ask it as an emergency.
Are we wanting to send it to full council as an emergency? Is that what the impression I'm getting?
Nobody had suggested that previously. That's why I was,
Is there any reason why it should be an emergency?
I think it's been about the same this entire time anyway. I mean,
So that's the only thing I see so far. So,
I mean, should we send it as an emergency due to the fact that part of this is if they can get it sold, that's less maintenance by the city? And this is the season where that maintenance is occurring?
and would that be cost
I wasn't sure.
effective or cost prohibitive? How much does it cost?
Mr. Gobrick, would it cost us more to do it as an emergency or
Or save the city?
I don't know, ask her.
Ms. Wise? Does it cost the same? Is it more expensive? I mean,
All I can give is how much it costs for me to publish a legal notice, but that includes more than just one piece of legislation.
and we're gonna have to publish it no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, so, looks like it's the same.
So it'd be cost effective because it'd be less property the city has to
If
maintenance.
they can get it sold faster, then that's less property that we're maintaining for the entire summer.
Well, are you entertaining motions?
I'm entertaining motions.
All right, Ms. Sherrick, I'll make a motion to refer the parcels that we're wanting to send to the CIC to full council as an emergency.
So the legislation, okay, so we have a,
The legislation.
that's right. We have a motion by Ms. Sheffield Slater. Do we have a second?
A second.
With a second by Mr. Mauritz. Roll call vote, Ms. Slater?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Mauritz?
Yes.
Mr. Spiegel?
Yes.
And I myself am a yes, so motion passes. All right, do we have anything on the other projects that we need to speak about tonight?
I kind of had some stuff I wanted to have questions about or go over with. With you actually, if you wanted to keep certain ones on or not.
Okay.
That would be the actual first one, 103, 2017. Will we keep that on there or as a whole, or can some be taken off, or?
Well, all of that is just what's happened with it.
Yeah, that's,
So,
and I asked about this, if we wanted to keep it on open projects, even though it's just something that happened, or would that technically be an open project, or is that just giving us information
well, at this point in time,
for, you
we
know?
now have the Trails Committee that was created. So I'm not sure what else in there would be talked about, so we could just ask if there's anything else.
Did our administration have something else?
I was gonna say ask the administration as a whole, not just poor Tommy hitting from the side tonight.
Not just poor Tommy?
See if there's anything else about it that's still open before we do anything to take it
Oh,
off.
we'll have to find out more about that one.
Right.
0602-2020 bulk water fill station. It has here that was sent back to service at the last, in 2020. I didn't see anything on the services.
So we got built.
Already got it built, already done, so that can be taken off?
That can be
Is that
taken
what it's
off.
for? Okay.
All right, and the Lions Field splash pad at 5322 can come off.
Right.
Because
Wait, are we
that,
wanting to keep that for the recirculator? Or we just wanting-
no, that's Lions Field, not,
Yeah.
no, that was a whole different project.
Yeah, I know where Lions Field is. I just.
No, I mean, it was a whole different
I saw
project.
splash pad.
Never got done. Also, Nevada Water Lines project,
Is the Nevada water line complete?
yes, well, that one can come off. ODOT bridge inspections, the next one I had, 10/18/2022. Bridge inspection one's done, wasn't it? So that could probably be taken off.
Yeah,
Space in City Hall, huh?
I just got office space at City Hall, that's all it says here.
yeah, that's just so that's on here because there's.
Just keep it on here
Yeah.
for whatever.
There was an office or two that they're.
Leasing solar, these are just question marks I had, if we're going to take these off or not. Leasing public lands to
Yeah, at this
solar
point-
energy.
At this point in time, that was just an open project idea, depending on what all happens, so.
Keep that one on there.
City properties being taken care of. Neff Reservoir, do we know what that was on here for?
Yeah, there's a dam being repaired out there.
Is that done?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
That stays on?
But there's nothing on here about it, so that's why I was
It's
wondering.
just, yeah, it just,
Well,
Absolutely no information.
I guess for the record, just so we know, I have, in my abundance of spare time, look at open grants. There is a federal grant with the Department of Natural Resources for preserving waterways, and dam repair is one of them, so. Don't know if we want to have a grant writer look at that. I know I had emailed it to administration like a year ago at this point probably, so, but I'm sure I can find it. It looks like it's renewable yearly, so.
Okay, and,
park boards have been
well,
established,
I was
right?
gonna say 2723 is leasing public lands, and so is 2624. That should all be brought in as one item, just so you know.
Yep. I did, some of these I circled around two different places.
Yeah, we did clean this up a lot that way, but.
Mhm. Leasing the water tower should stay on there, because we haven't done anything with that, right?
Yeah, I think.
Warren
everything-
Street, excuse me.
I think everything else is still here.
Wavelink still here? Contract, or is that done?
There's no such thing as a contract, and that should probably stay open while we have the service.
Okay.
The
Baby pools,
The hunting ordinance,
I have a, there's a one to maybe take off.
well, we haven't passed anything on it.
Oh, no, I don't have that one on there. I have a question
Yeah,
mark. I
wasn't
haven't-
the edit supposed to be that they wanted people to,
The edit was they wanted to have the stands be marked, and then we found out that the hunting license number doesn't change, so they could put their hunting license number, which then could be searched by the city from where they signed up.
I talked to Tommy about that. We're under the assumption that we're waiting on you to make a decision.
Yeah, that was the decision. We were just waiting for it to be put in the type so we could. Yep,
We
that was
asked
it.
for-
As soon as we found out that the hunting license number stays the same, so they wouldn't have to keep, because that way people don't have to put their personal information out there for everybody.
did we ask for draft legislation?
Huh? Yeah, we asked for draft legislation. It's been a minute. So.
This whole time, we've been waiting on you, and you have been waiting on us.
That doesn't work too. It's
The
It's the
most
circle
boring
of City
standoff
Hall.
in history.
Don't they call it a circle something?
But hey,
Circle left,
it'll all be
circle
done
city.
before hunting season.
Circle around to it. Last one I had was Doug Wilson's
Sign.
resolution, yeah.
Yeah, that just got finished, so we can take that off.
Yep, we can take that one out. 4/1/2025.
That one
Well,
was
they-
removed on the.
The
Oh, the new one it is?
Yeah, I don't see.
That's all I had.
What about taking the YMCA off?
Oh, I missed that.
Currently, nothing's actually fully happened other than we are supposed to get it if it's still up for grabs.
Gotcha.
So I probably wouldn't do anything till we knew everything.
I like that.
Just saying.
I wouldn't do anything until we know everything.
All right. So, do we have any public participation?
Yes, Mr. Katie.
You dropped something, sir.
Yeah,
So did you.
I guess I gotta come to this one to give out my presentation of what I want to do with that building, I guess.
Actually, you do not have to do that right now.
I don't.
You don't. I will explain it.
All right.
It'll be easier. We'll talk later.
All right, got it.
All right? You do not have to give that presentation yet. Yet. All right. So, is there anybody else? Is
Hello,
this,
ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name's Lary Gallant. I live at 216 West Mary Street in the alley. The reason I'm here is because the hill that runs along adjacent to my property, where the guardrail is, it goes to the bridge. That's city property. It's only being mowed up to a couple times a year. Right now the grass is this high. The reason I'm here is for a very specific reason. I got home today from work, 3:30ish, somewhere around 4. And I answered a phone call as I pulled in the driveway. I turned around to face like I was going to drive out. And then I got a text message. I was answering that. Then all of a sudden I see this beautiful black dog stand up in the tall grass. I'm like, where'd that come from? I opened the door and said, come here. I'm trying to coax it. Then I see more movement in that grass. And it's an 85-year-old man. His name is Douglas Wayne. Don't blank what his last name is right now. But he was walking down the sidewalk there, just come to the end of the guardrail, misstepped or something, and slid down that hill in that tall grass. And I had to be there 20, 30 minutes and didn't even notice him. I turned around, couldn't have been 5 or 10 feet from him. If he was there for that long, he had to be there for hours or more, because he was actually trying to walk his dog to have it groomed at the veterinarian's office, which closed at 5:30. They closed by the time I got him all picked up and straightened out, and I drove him and his dog around there. They were just closing at that time. I'd like to see if something can be done or addressed about this, getting that mowed at a more timely time. If I let my yard go that high, y'all would be on me and wanting to cite me or whatever. And if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Now, I attribute the biggest reason I didn't realize Mr. Ryan, Douglas Wayne Ryan, born 2/23/1940. I know because I took him to the hospital also. After the veterinarian clinic, they kept his dog overnight. They're going to groom it. And then one of the vet tech, or the groomers, actually stayed there at the hospital with him. He seemed like a very nice old man, but if he was born in 1940, that would make him 85, right? He said 80, but I'm pretty sure that would make him 85. I would have never seen him if his dog did not stand up. She laid down in the grass beside him. I actually took pictures. You can see in the impression, just like a deer when they're running and hiding, they'll lay in the tall grass or whatever. She laid right beside him, cuddled up beside him,
she's protecting him.
and then stood up. I'm
Just
like,
for clarification, you're talking about where West Mary Street, where Poplar?
where Poplar Street is.
Okay, all right.
I
Well,
have,
I'm sure we can talk to the safety service director, but I'm sure that some of the debris and disabled vehicles will have to be moved to mow that spot.
we're not talking about my property. We're
The-
talking about city property.
Yeah, but they need access to the right of way.
They can drive right down there. I drive there every day.
Okay.
That's a slight against me. My vehicles are all tagged and insured. They all run.
Yeah. All right. You say so.
Yeah, that's,
Excuse me?
If you say so, sir. I drive that every
Clarissa.
single day, but I'm
Clarissa.
just saying that there's probably an issue about access, so.
Clarissa, he can speak with the city service safety director about getting it checked for the morning. Thank you, sir.
Well, I brought the maps that I have of the area because it's been an ongoing thing with this crummy fence down there too. It's blocking my access, my egress to my property. But I have these because of that, and I didn't know if you wanted to know a precise or concise area where Mr. Ryan fell, but he fell right by the end of the guardrail and slid down that hill. Thankfully, it's not really steep. He's kind of like slid down it and then he laid down in the tall grass.
Thank you.
As-
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have anybody else for public participation? All right, seeing none, we're going to adjourn at 6:21 PM.
Safety Committee, June 5th, 2025.
I call the Health and Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:22 PM. Members present are Kevin Myers, C. Aaron Sherrick, James Mee, and myself, Vicki DeShawn, Chair. First on the agenda, public participation. Anyone who wishes to address the committee may come to the podium and state their name and residential address.
It is health and safety. He was asking, sorry.
That's okay. Seeing no one, next on the agenda is proposed ordinance number 24-2025, the traffic control map update. And we have with us this evening Dylan Wyatt from McKeever and Associates, who's going to address this particular ordinance and give us information.
All right. Hi, everybody. Dylan Wyatt, McKeever and Associates. So obviously there's been a lot of questions come up, and I apologize for not being able to get up here sooner to address any of them. So I had brought up the reducing Sandusky Avenue from Marion Road to Beale Avenue from a 3-lane road to a 2-lane road. This stemmed, we're working on the storm sewer project down there that I'm going to be talking about later. And I had to be, me personally, in the middle of the road pulling inverts on a manhole. And as traffic's buzzing by me, I thought, wow, this is really tight. And then once we started doing more survey work, we realized that the road is only 30 feet wide currently, which is very, very narrow for a 3-lane road. Typically, we would see 36 feet wide for a 3-lane road. 12-foot lanes is what ODOT typically puts in. They'll drop down to 11, but almost never 10 unless it's under a construction maintenance of traffic. So I brought this up as hoping to start the discussion, and then it proceeded quicker than I expected it to, and I wasn't able to get up here. So we did have a meeting with ODOT last week, and to talk about this specifically, as well as a couple other items. They do not have a requirement for anything from us other than a statement of what we intend to do. So there's no approval process from them. We are within corp limits, and all that they want is a statement what we're doing so that they know when they come through to repave the road how the road will be striped. And then, so as far as that, all we would need is the legislation from you all and from council. As far as traffic count and data available publicly on there, if you go to Ohio Department of Transportation Traffic Viewer, it's an interactive ArcGIS type map where you can look at traffic data that ODOT compiles over the whole state. Some of it's in town, a lot of it's out in the counties. But they also do quite a bit of traffic counts in town. So some of these are projections, some of these are actual traffic counts. I believe since 2010, they've counted on that specific area of Sandusky Street 7 times. In that time period, their published online data goes back to 2015. In 2015, average daily traffic on that portion of Sandusky Avenue was 5,700 cars a day, or vehicles per day. The most recent data that's available, 2024, we are down to 2,987 vehicles per day. So that's, you have a question?
Do you know when they did those counts?
I don't have the dates written down on here.
I know summer's different, but you know what I'm saying, like,
Yes, so they had
late traffic was my big worry.
yes, they had an array of days of the week as well as times of the year. Again,
Potentially attributed to GE closing as well.
well, I don't know that for certain. So if you look at the data that they have, the amount of traffic on that road drastically drops, like in the 2018 to 2019 range, and then it continues to stay low. Kind of, that's what I thought, a mix of people not driving as much from COVID and GE closing, but the drop in traffic happened before then based on their data that they have available. So this data only tells us average annual daily traffic. It does not tell us percentage turning, percentage northbound. They do have northbound, southbound split, but not anything about turning. If we wanted to look at more in detailed information, we could certainly gather that and do some kind of a traffic study, traffic count in that area. But at this point, I had looked at it as if we were putting that road in now, that would never be a permittable road because of the width of it. And really we see that, and you drive down the road, the edges are run down all the time. I mean, at this point, we're spending $10,000 to $15,000 a year every single year in between ODOT paving in order just to maintain the road, because the section's in poor shape and they're running down the edges where traffic should never be running on the road. So that's why I brought this up. We can gather more info if you want. We personally in-house don't do traffic studies, but we have a couple different companies that are semi-local that we work with that we could certainly do some traffic studies out there, but I don't think they're really expensive, not at a cursory level like this in such a small area. We can get those numbers for you. It wouldn't be a big deal. But I think what this allows us to do, though, is at the areas Beale Avenue, Southern Avenue, where we are keeping the turn lanes, it's easy to widen a section of road that's 200 feet long rather than widening 3,000 feet of roadway to make it suitable and quite honestly safer. So that's all that I had for you.
I've got a litany of questions.
Yeah.
If I may.
Sure.
I think what you just touched on, it would probably not be cost prohibitive, and I don't know, or it would be cost prohibitive, and I don't know if there's actual space. Widening it's not an option for the whole length, correct?
It's always an option. It's just the cost.
Financially, it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll be back up here talking about the storm sewer project. There would be Sandusky Avenue is the low point of everything. It's obvious the road's flat, and for that reason, everything's really shallow in Sandusky Avenue. So you would have a substantial amount of some utility relocates in order to make it happen. But
that would be at our expense.
some of them, we're working through that right now. The gas company does relocates at the city's request. If we show that there's a project coming along, they do that not at the city's cost. Fiber optic that's right on the back of curb, we're still working through who pays for that. And then there's several power poles that are right on the back of curb that would be a problem. And I mean, in order to turn this into what it needs to be, it's several feet on both sides of the road. It's
Yeah,
not, we're not widening it a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
would there be any effect one way or the other on the sewer project, whether it was widened or left at its current state and taken from 3 to 2 lanes?
no, it won't affect anything.
As far as
on that
long
front.
term, like the road getting beat up type things causing more damage to the sewer project?
No, everything that so the sanitary sewer's deep enough that it's irrelevant.
Okay.
The storm sewer that we're looking at putting in, everything is highway loaded. You could drive over it without anything over top of it long-term and it wouldn't bother it.
Okay. I got two pieces of communication from people that I wanted to share with you and have you just kind of talk about what their concerns were. One is from a truck driver that goes to Hordes. He says the road has too much truck traffic going to Hordes to reduce it down because with the people that are going to be turning off of the street onto the side streets, the trucks are going to have to start to stop more often. So I just wanted your thoughts on that statement.
Okay. I don't have it. Without doing a formal traffic study, I can't answer
Sure.
that. The only thing I know is that traffic is half of what it used to be. Now, maybe that's still heavily distributed to truck traffic and the car traffic, passenger vehicle traffic is a lot lower. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, we could find that out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're honestly, anything we do out here, I mean, the ODOT project itself is counting ODOT share, it's a $2 million, $3 million project. Like a traffic study is it's a rounding error on the whole thing.
Yeah. And then the last one was from a resident who lives on one of the side streets, I believe on Shell Avenue there.
Okay.
Her concern was that with it only being 2 lanes there, that it's going to be harder for them to get out onto 98, which I'm not sure what the reasoning for that is, but that was her concern she shared with me.
Turning left out into the turn lane, then merging into traffic, which
Which I have seen a lot of.
Maybe that's what she's thinking of, okay.
I would imagine that's the only way that makes sense to me. That's the only way I can wrap my head around that, I
was
guess.
asked about William Street going on and on.
Yeah.
Whether
And
that's
in that same conversation, I know the Traffic Commission just discussed turning Walnut Street back into a 2-lane road, and she says if this project goes through, she really wants that considered again, so I just wanted to make sure I said that, so somebody heard me say it.
And honestly,
before we talk about it.
Walnut Street's nearly as wide as Sandusky Avenue, and it's a
Well,
one-lane
and
street
that was
right
one of the
now.
excuses a few years ago that the Traffic Commission used to not turn it back, because they said the truck traffic's gone from GE now, but they said it's narrow. I'm like, well, I can show you a heck of a lot more streets in town that are a lot narrower than that, so with that said, those are my questions. I will say, I mean, yeah, you said it's just a rounding error for the traffic study. I've heard enough, with what you have to say that I'm in support of the project, that I don't see the need for that, but I also wouldn't be opposed if you wanted to do a traffic study for us to move forward. Thank you.
You want to go with your questions, Aaron?
I was gonna say, and there was one other question that I was asked that I think everything else was covered by what Kevin had asked. Somebody asked me if they're going to make it 2 lanes, would they look at making like a bike lane, since the road's how wide?
That's
as
up
part
to
of
you
it.
all.
I'm just saying, that was a question. Would there be an issue
So
safety-wise? Because if you're at 30 feet and you're taking out a lane and you still have, how much space
No, I
would
think
you?
generally bike lane 4 to 5 feet.
You're
I think
looking at
you're
like 4 feet,
okay.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
so that was the question, was if we're gonna lose a lane
I know that,
because of the way people are biking more and more often now, with that being more narrow, because you do see people riding their bikes down that turn lane because the edges are.
yeah, and I do know that turn lane, or bike lanes have been discussed back and forth here several times on many other streets. So that's up to you guys. Yeah, probably it's fine.
Just,
So there is enough room for a bike path.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's plenty of room for a bike path, but there's enough room for a bike path.
because that too might keep traffic moving.
Jim, did you have any questions?
No, you guys covered it.
We had talked at our last meeting about on Beale Avenue, moving back what I'm gonna call the stop bars. Remember how we were talking?
Because the turn radius is.
Right.
Yep, and we can look at that. So stop bars are generally in the wrong spot.
That's what I said.
For trailer drag, especially if you're pulling a trailer. That's something that can easily be changed when we repaint the road. That's not a hard change.
Because that was definitely, I know the school buses and the semi-drivers and.
I know that,
Ford were all asking
that was at Beale specifically.
Yeah,
Was
because
it-
they
right.
all
That was the
did.
question it was asked.
Yeah, so I think that intersection is still running loop detectors. But talking with Jeff Dunn, he's intending to try and get cameras in there prior to the ODOT paving, so we don't have to worry about loop detectors. So even if we had cameras, it's an even easier change. So just re-aiming them, so, yep.
Another question that had been asked by a constituent was putting up traffic signals or turn lights or...
Turn lights, yeah, where the lights are.
You would need a traffic study for that. And in addition to that, so I don't know, Southern Avenue, I'm not sure you'd be changing out the entire traffic light assembly, whether those span wires are up to spec, how much of that has to be redone out of a fund. My understanding that all comes out of Mooney Fund. That doesn't really have the
just
funds to
spent
be
almost all
able
of it on the
to,
Hop
yeah, we
Avenue.
just spent all of it on the 2 intersections we did. So,
I think there was a comment then also made about sinking the lights, and maybe I don't want to say sinking the lights, but it's like when people are coming, my directions are awful. When you're on
East to west.
Southern and you're headed towards
West.
Hopley,
east.
east, it's like,
They turn together.
it's like the
Yeah,
people that
those-
are coming the
those
other
lights
way,
turn
the
together.
lights.
By the time when you get from the one to the other, it's already red.
If you drive slow enough.
You can make that up on bicycle.
Legally.
Well, and I think the concern was when you come up to the light and as it turns red, the other direction, they're just like shooting through. There's that,
So I would say aside from trial and error from the streets folks, you need like actual traffic study to be able, if you're gonna start changing timing on that
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, so it's doable. I don't know how much it's worth spending to time those out though. It can be done though. But a traffic study may show that exactly what's there now is what's supposed to be there, so.
and a traffic study is different than a traffic count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you may use a traffic count in your traffic study, but the traffic study will likely have projections in it also beyond today's numbers.
Does the committee have any more questions?
May I say something?
You may, but you have to wait until our next public participation. And that'll be at the end of this particular meeting.
Yeah, yeah, I'll still be here.
Actually, something I'd like to add to that, because I'm a commercial driver. and we're talking about the extreme security area, because people don't have sidewalks.
Okay, excuse me, if we could wait till public,
I was talking to him, but
well,
he seemed like he's interested.
Yes.
okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. So if the committee has no more questions, did you have anything else then to say, Dylan?
Not on this, nope.
How soon do you need us to make a decision
Yeah.
is my other question.
Not,
I mean, do we have the time to
yeah.
take a look at
Yes,
different
you
counts
have,
and such?
yes, you have the time, and with what I'll talk about in next committee with the storm, or service committee with the storm project, we'll get into that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Also, at our last meeting, it had been asked about checking with the police department on accidents at those well, I guess checking on accidents. I will admit that I did not do that until this afternoon. However, when Jenny was asking me different questions, I realized I didn't have the answers to give to her. So first off, how many years do we want Mrs. Gerger to,
Look back.
yeah, for this, accidents? Do we want her to go back for, 5 years, 10 years, what?
in current traffic
I say current
levels.
traffic levels would be about 5 years because things have gotten a lot slower since COVID in those areas.
And I'm going to assume that we're just asking for a number of accident reports. We don't need to see copies of the reports and,
My thing on that though is,
okay?
why are we asking her to compile that data? Because this project has nothing to do with the safety of the road. And if anything, you would think it would make it safe.
Hey guys, can you take the conversation in the hall, because that's like echoing through the microphones even, so people at home can't hear, and I'm having problems hearing Kevin. But I mean, you can,
So, I mean, I guess I don't see the relevance to how many crashes there were on a stretch that we're not concerned about the safety of it. This project isn't a safety project, it's for the wear and tear on the road and because of the road being too thin. So if anything, making the wider lanes is gonna make it safer.
So then, and I had told Jettie to just sit tight until I got answers to some questions that she had. So we're now stating that we do not feel as a committee.
No, that's just my opinion.
Okay,
I was gonna say, and I know that it was brought up because people were worried about not having the full lane and only having turn lanes at specific spots, if that was gonna,
Yeah, but knowing how many crashes there were previously is irrelevant to a speculation of if this is gonna become less safe.
So Vicki, you're on the traffic commission, right?
yes.
So you're gonna take the stop bars, the turn lights, bike lanes, you're gonna take that all to them, and they're gonna come up with something to bring back to us, or how is this gonna work?
The bike lanes wouldn't go to traffic commission. That would be if we asked to have that engineered into this project. We could do that without it going to traffic commission. The stop bars technically would go to traffic commission, but if it's engineered into part of this, if Dylan looks at it and says, yeah, it's a necessity to move them back, I think that could be done bypassing the traffic commission on that as well. So the traffic commission already basically brought this to us. It says that they want to change the map to go from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. Now it's in our laps to make the decision, off of their recommendation to do that. So I kind of, I wasn't interested in hearing the traffic count numbers just because of all the other aspects of the project, but when he says that we have the time to do it, let's find out and see what the data is.
Okay.
depending on the cost.
He said it was an inconsequential cost, so.
Well, he said he'd get us the map if we wanted it too.
Those were the only questions that I had received from constituents and from constituents that had spoke at our last committee meeting that wanted us to check into. Okay, so nothing more on that one. Next we have, oh, yes.
I do have something on that one.
Sure, well, yeah, really public participation, yeah.
I can do it in the public thing.
Okay, thank you.
Not a big.
On the ordinance, number 24-2025, and I had brought this up back at our May 22nd, 25 committee meeting, section 2. The verbiage that's in there, there's typically standard verbiage that's always in section 2. And this verbiage is pretty much standard as to what it always is, but it's missing some words, which we came up with, or Mr. Gobrick had mentioned, that we're not erecting any signs or whatever. We are just, how did you say that? We're just altering the driving lanes. So I'm wondering if section 2, if y'all have it in front of you, if we would say that the Public Service Safety Director of the City of Bucyrus, Ohio, shall only alter the driving lanes aforementioned, period. And we strike out the rest of the words, which I don't think make sense, and they are, and erect only those authorized as are necessary. I mean, it doesn't state erect what? Again, their standard verbiage and it's not been used. Part of the words have been deleted. That's just my observation for it to make sense, because when you read it, I don't think it makes sense. That the Public Service Safety Director of the City of Bucyrus, Ohio, shall only alter the driving lanes aforementioned and erect only those authorized.
Could you use the word signage instead of those, and that would correct the entire thing? And erect only signage authorized as necessary?
Eh,
So if you got rid of R, it'd say and erect only signage authorized as necessary to regulate. That would,
And your signage would be the,
so that way you have to have a
arrows.
sign showing that there's a turn lane ahead, because some of them show that there's a turn lane, and you know, if that's what's necessary for ODOT at the time, then we have it in here saying that it can happen. And the arrows in the road.
Stuff in the road doesn't get controlled by us, that's done, you know, through the street
So
garage
if they
schedule.
decide that they need a sign showing that there's a turn lane ahead, then that's up there as necessary.
Yeah.
Brennan, are you cool with that?
Cool with
Put
that.
signage instead of those and get rid of the word R?
Sounds good to me.
There we go.
So are we holding off on this piece until after we
Yeah,
hear
we can get it
more
corrected.
oh,
information?
yeah, because as,
Yeah, we can get it corrected in the meantime.
yeah.
So there you go.
I just thought I'd bring that up so we could get it corrected and that part's done. And I know I've asked this question before and sometimes we've got some different answers, but Mr. Gobrick, we do not need to make a motion to amend this section 2, the fact that the committee has asked you to do that, or do you want Aaron to make a motion that section 2 should read?
I don't know, Miranda, how do you want it?
Right now, it's just draft legislation.
Yeah, I don't see that it needs more.
I don't see why it needs a
Okay,
motion,
great.
so-
But I just wanted to check with you. Okay. Okey dokey. Next on the agenda, Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 505, Animals and Fowl. We received yesterday draft legislation from Mr. Gobrick. I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity, you know.
I was looking through it.
Okay,
I got my notes and questions.
great, as do I. So, do you want to start first?
Yeah, how else do you define dog? To your note asking, you know, do we need to define dog?
Well, later
Are you saying
down,
just take it out, or?
no, later down in the ordinance, it starts mentioning different inbreeding of dogs with coyotes and wolves, and they use the specific genus. And I
Gotcha.
thought maybe you guys wanted to actually use the scientific terminology for a domesticated dog.
Gotcha, okay. I agree with that. On the third page, under paragraph C there at the top, where it says the owner shall be entitled to resume possession of any impounded dog.
Can you do, because maybe, can you say
Oh,
like the
what
section?
section?
Yes,
I'm so
please.
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm guessing that's 505.04.
4.
No, there isn't an 04.
Yeah.
Yeah, the page before at the very bottom.
Okay, I'm looking on here, there's not an 04 on here.
This is legal
I know there
paper,
isn't.
and you
yeah.
have regular papers,
Oh, I
so
gotcha.
most of your stuff got cut
But
off.
you are correct. It's
Okay.
not there, and that's one of my observations.
Okay, so on 04,
It's-
when it says upon payment of a fee of $7 per day, my questions are, who sets that rate? Is that us, or is that the animal warden, or the Humane Society?
I don't know.
Because
I can
if
look
it's
into that.
not us, I don't want to put a number in there, and then if they change it, our stuff's not right. So is it possible to leave that dollar amount out, just say, upon payment of a fee set by blank, whoever sets the fee?
We would have to ask the Humane Society.
I was gonna say, I would just,
Because the minute we pass this and they raise it next week, you know.
I don't know who
or
sets
it
it.
could be less than what they're already charging. I don't
Right.
know what they're charging.
They do set that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I would like to take that number out and just say,
That way if they
upon
change
payment of a
what it
fee
is.
set by the Humane Society.
Sounds good to
And
me.
that was my other question, maybe we need to stipulate who that's payable to, because that was another question, but he just answered that.
Okay.
In that same section further down in C, you asked about, is it the intent to limit officer discretion in this matter? And I think that's because you say a citation shall be issued by the chief of police or his designee.
Mm-hmm.
You said I don't like taking discretion away. Is it because it says shall be
Correct.
issued, and you wanted to say may be issued?
Correct.
I agree with that. To your next comment on number 3, your comment number 3, which is in paragraph D, 505.03, you again had the word shall, and you want that to say may.
Correct.
Which makes complete sense.
I totally agree. Now, when it says that the dog will be held for 3 days, after which time the dog shall be forthwith turned over and delivered to the Humane Society, where are we housing this dog for 3 days?
It's a
Well, we
great
used to have
question.
the pound, but there's also the part of, the Humane Society has it, and they'll keep it separated for however long, and I mean, from the sounds of it, it would be technically our problem, even though they're the ones housing it for us, and then it's their problem after 3 days.
Well, I guess turned over and delivered to, I'm like,
Yeah.
where's the dog for those 3
Yeah.
days?
Because I know that they keep them, and they keep them in.
So that might need looked at and worded slightly differently. In paragraph E, help me understand why we're specifying a female dog shall be impounded, but not a male dog. And that, is there a reason for that? I read through it, tried to understand it, and I can't.
I assume that when it was written, probably decades ago, they were worried about the population.
Okay. I question if that's.
I didn't write that
yeah.
part.
Okay. You just noted it.
So
Okay.
can we just cross out female dog? So any fierce, dangerous, or vicious dogs?
Sure.
Well, but what they're saying there, they're saying any female dog who's described that's found at large shall be impounded. Okay, so any dog, and that's already happening, I suppose.
Right, so just leaving.
So yeah, I
female
think the
out.
word female needs to come out. Under 505.05, when it talks about abandonment of animals, no owner or keeper of a dog, cat, or other domestic animal shall abandon such animal. And you're asking, how are we defining abandonment? And my answer, that's probably a time period. If it's left without any proper care for a length of, whatever that number is. And I think maybe I would ask the Humane Society what they would recommend that number be.
Cool.
Some people's dogs need attention every 4 hours, some every 8, some every 12, so I don't know what the right number
And I
is.
think part of that's from people who get up to move, and the animals are still there and healthy.
Sure, yeah.
Had a lot of those cases.
On to the next page, under 505.07, paragraph B. Law director asked the question because it says the public safety director and the chief of police are being given a written report. And I guess my answer to that, you're asking, do you want a report sent to both? I'm saying, well, whoever's really has the responsibility of following through with whatever comes next is who should get that. Whichever one of them is handling the process of what they're talking about there. Which I don't know if that's the police department or not. So that's probably a question to ask.
Tommy, is this your job?
It's kind of what I thought.
And the police department say it's not their job.
But here's the question. Is it something that's usually turned over to legal?
Probably not. I've never seen it.
So nobody knows who deals with it after the fact?
I volunteer, Tommy.
I think he just said he graciously accepts. On the next page, under paragraph F as in Frank, it talks about strict isolation and observation of an animal shall be enforced at the owner's expense for a period of 6 months. Again, my question is, where did that number come from? Is that a veterinarian that says that?
Is that
I don't
for
know.
babies?
It was in there when it was passed.
And that's why I just want, because I'm going to get to that in a second. In fact, that's my next, and two more notes, I'll touch back on that. Paragraph G, no person shall kill or cause to be killed any rabid animal, any animal suspected of having been exposed to rabies, or any animal biting a human being except as herein provided. And your note is, so no person would include a veterinarian, so are we saying that a veterinarian needs permission to euthanize? Is euthanization and the word kill considered to be the same thing in legal definition?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, clearly the intent here is that you can't see a rabid animal and then take it into your hands and kill it. However, it's ambiguous, and
So maybe add a sentence, aside from veterinarians performing legal euthanizations, comma.
sounds good.
Okay. So I made a note here. Has the police department looked over this and given their input? Has the Humane Society, and have we had any veterinarians look over this entire chapter and give their input as to, hey, that doesn't sound right, or why are we having this, or?
So the way this worked was I got it and it had a bunch of changes to it, and then I mentioned it to Neil, and it had a bunch of responsibilities that were put onto the police department, and he threw a fit, and it came back, and I was told to take it out, and then I took it out, and then some things got added, and then we had the trap neuter return program, and then we didn't have the trap neuter return program, and then we had it, and then we didn't. And so now you have it, nobody else has touched it.
Got it. I've got like 3 more questions, but I mean, I am going to say I think maybe we should send this out to the Humane Society and have them make notes and give us recommendations, and
That sounds
maybe-
like a great idea.
Maybe have a vet as well, and the dog board for that matter.
I was gonna say, it looks like Vicki had something, if you had a break in your.
Okay, if you will remember, Victoria Caldwell, the executive director of the Humane Society, and Angela Straub, Crawford County Dog Warden, they came to our Health and Safety Committee meeting. They had been given not a copy of this,
Right.
but a copy of the latest draft that we had been provided. And at that time, they talked about their suggested revisions. Not only did they talk about it, but they emailed to me those revisions, along with the revisions that were also given by Sam Tanner, who is the owner of Sam's Wildlife Control. And those were emailed on March the 20th to Mr. Goldbrick and to the committee members. Their suggested revisions.
And I can resend that email too.
Excuse me?
I can resend that email to everybody, just to refresh.
Well, it was an email that I sent.
The one from Sam Tanner, I believe. I mean, that one came to both of us.
Well, yes, but I'm talking about the okay, go ahead.
Would it hurt to send them like an emailed copy? That way they can mark it up?
And that was sent to everybody.
Okay.
I guess, let me clarify, my question was, have they given their input? Is their input included in this is what I'm asking for?
So
That
I guess
was
the
my
next
question
question,
because
I guess the next question was that before or after you had me take out all the stuff that put the responsibility on the police department that the police department didn't want to do?
okay, now first off, that comment, that's not something that we ask. You took a draft to Neil Ossenheimer, the chief. He then made his suggestions, which then you put in a draft. But then he turned around and said, no, he didn't want them in the draft. So I guess I'm saying, we didn't ask. You took that to Mr. Ossenheimer yourself.
I never took it to him. I just mentioned it in passing, and then he came up to the meeting and talked about it.
We got an email. You sent him an email. He responded by email. And with his attachments and his changes he made and everything. I guess, I mean, I've got all of it, but I'm not going to waste everybody's time for me to pull out the documentation to support what I'm saying. But To add to your question, I have looked at this draft, and that was one of my questions. With this latest draft, have you, Mr. Gobrick, incorporated any of the suggested revisions that were provided verbally and also through paper given by Caldwell, Straub, and Tanner?
Well, Miranda's going to be kind enough to resend that, so I will check.
I will just say that in my looking at what paperwork they gave to me, which I in turn gave to everyone, I'm not seeing that that was looked at. But that's just, you know, my review of their paperwork. I know also that Councilwoman Sherrick at our March 20th committee meeting had requested, Mr. Gobrick, that you look into revising which animals are restricted.
Correct.
One was removed.
Okay, and
But I had also asked yesterday if there was any way to put in wording, you know, so that people can get permissions. Like, say you already have a pet such and such, and it's not a harmful animal, it's inside, it's not, you know, but it happens to be in this. Is there a way that we can get it? Because, like, I know somebody with primates, not in town at this point in time, but to have their primate where they live, they have to have, it has to be an indoor animal, it has to have so many vet visits, all the shots, and special insurance. Like, these are the, you know, the rules to be allowed to have, and I didn't know if we could do wording like that, you know, that just says you have to get the permission under.
and you're saying that you've already discussed with?
We emailed and texted yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We did. So he had my revisions a little bit, so.
Do you have more revisions?
I just had one more that I'll throw out real quick.
Fine.
On 505.10, you asked about, it was on animal owners that are liable for damage to property, and your question was, are we talking about replacement cost or actual cash value type things? And I think the goal there is indemnification for the person who had the damages done. So I would say that would be a replacement cost.
Okay.
Or something. It's just my 2 cents worth. That's all I have on this one. For now.
Did you have anything, Jim?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Aaron, did you have any?
Nope, I guess, yeah, I really did, I covered it.
I have a few. Back on January the 14th, I sent an email to Mr. Gobrick setting forth revisions that needed to be made to the draft that we had at that time. I'm noticing that those haven't been handled. If you look under the first page, if you look under animals and fowl, where it's got, we need to insert, wait a minute, where it's 505.04. Oh, we need to insert
Yeah.
505.04, impounding and disposition records, and I had indicated that. I had also indicated that we needed to revise 505.06 to read abandoning animals. Right now it reads nuisance conditions prohibited. And excuse me, that's 505.05 needs to read abandoning animals.
It does read abandoning animals.
We have impounding and disposition
Yeah.
on the list at the top of the page.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
She's on the list right now, sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the insertion of 505.16. We have here 505.17. And that's, you know, on page 1, where it talks animals and fowl, and then it lists the different subsections. So with that being stated, if you go then to, in your document itself, and go to 505. you've got 505.17, and that should be 505.16. And I realize, you know, this next one's minor, but really not. We need to change 2024 to 2025 on the last page for the year. Let's see if I had any others.
I do have another one.
Nope. So go ahead.
505.17, the rights of blind, deaf, or other hearing impaired or mobility impaired persons.
Which is to be 505.16.
Right.
Okay.
Is that necessary that we have it in our codified ordinance?
Ooh.
Because that is,
I was told to put it in there by Vicky.
I'm just asking because it's covered by federal law.
And the reason that I asked for it to be placed in here is if you will go to our codified ordinances on, they put it in. Our people that do our codified ordinance updates, they have that, it's already included. So unless the law director feels that because they put it in, you don't want it in, but for whatever reason, they felt it was necessary, we do our codifying of our codified ordinances.
I just worry that something here at any point, whether it's now or down the road, could conflict with what the federal law is on that.
I think that they updated it based on the state law that was passed. So when we don't update something, even if something in the state passes that affects local municipalities, they'll update it for us in those sections. And it should have the revised code number there too.
Well, I'm not gonna waste everybody's time. These are in order of dates, but I don't think everybody wants to sit here while I go through all those papers. So are you saying that you don't feel it needs to be on
I
here?
think it's covered by federal law, and I don't want us to be in a position where our rules are conflicting with federal law. And if the federal law is there to protect the person who has that animal.
So,
And what makes you think that's under federal law? This 505.16?
it's federal law that was adapted with some minor changes by the state for a state law that affects local municipalities, which is where I'm gonna question. I do think we should probably have something that mentions it, but just, you know, our rules reflect ORC as the last thing. I don't think we have to print it all out.
It's kind of where I was going with it, yeah.
Yeah. I think we can cover all the bases that way.
And that way if it changes,
That way if it changes, it changes
That's-
in theirs
that's
and
my
we're
entire
not the ones
point,
paying
yeah.
for it.
So then the fact that the company that does our codified ordinances has placed all of this in here, we're saying,
Well, they'll go ahead and keep doing as they do, because anytime it changes with the state, they'll add it in, and we've got it listed, and we've got what it reflects, so them putting in whatever the local wording, or whatever the current wording is fine, because they're the ones that update that. So all we're saying is we're reflecting what they're saying. Thank you.
and
Because that way, if there's a massive change, we would have to change ours altogether, unless we're just referring to what they're referring to anyway. So please refer to, and here's the ORC.
so you're saying what?
Just, we would leave the title heading, the rights, and then please refer to ORC such and such. 995.01B, comma 955.43C, you know, all the ones that are listed, because things like that aren't really anything set locally, because we could very easily step on toes that are already being taken care of federally and statewide. There's a lot of,
Well, whatever you guys decide.
I just liked making sure that we know that we're.
I just like to see it reflect the ORC, so. I agree with you.
Because if they change it, we'll have to change our entire code again. You know, we'll have to make it, whereas if we say, but we're reflecting this, then that's, every time they change it, we're updated immediately. And they're the ones that put it in when you look it up, because it's their code that we follow anyway. So we're already.
Okey dokey. So we're ending with, you, Miranda, are going to be
I can provide.
Updating Mr. Gilbert with any of the changes he didn't have.
I can keep on.
and plus your,
Yeah, yep.
the emailing of the documents that, okay. Okey dokey. Next, peddlers and solicitors. Did y'all have an opportunity to look at that?
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, do you have any comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Aaron?
No, I skimmed it, I didn't get in depth, I'm sorry. But skimming it, it was looking okay.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm just looking for the title. It looks like 711.05, unless I'm missing a piece because it's not on the legal paper, but it's, that's the last heading I see. It would be under, Mr. Gilbert has labeled it as his comment number 3. It's talking about anybody who's been convicted of a misdemeanor involving moral turpitude or a felony cannot be issued a peddler's permit. And my question is, wouldn't it be better if that was still a concern that we maybe put a time limit on that? If you've been convicted of this within the last 12 months or 24 months, you know, and that the whole purpose of rehabilitation, if somebody went, if somebody went and did their time in jail or prison and they come out, come on.
I was gonna say, or the type of felony, you know, it's one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're looking at 71105. What's the letter?
H.
Okay. Okey dokey.
That one right there, yep.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, that's how, this is how some people are making their livings. I get it that we don't want to be inconvenienced with people ringing our doorbells at weird hours and all that stuff, but at the same token, I don't know. I don't think that's right to say, oh, if you had a felony 20 years ago, you can't have this permit. It's just, that's my 2 cents worth. And then under L, number 1, it talks about a written complaint being filed with the police department. I don't know that needs to be written because a lot of people make their telephone calls to the police department to report things.
So just a complaint.
So just a complaint being filed, to me, it would be sufficient, not needing to be in writing. Under 711.07, I know we had talked about this at one point. Should there be a step increase in penalties for continued violations? I think we discussed that at one point, and I thought that was a great idea that, you know, if it's your first time, you're guilty of a minor misdemeanor, but at some point, you know, especially if you're a larger company that has a bunch of people that are ringing your doorbells incessantly trying to get you to get their fiber optic internet, that if they keep breaking the law, it should just be a minor misdemeanor every time.
Right, because they're just gonna send somebody else and somebody else that it's just,
Yeah.
Okay, now, and you're looking at the number again?
711.07, where it says it shall be unlawful.
Yeah, where does it say it's?
Any person doing this,
Minor dismiss.
that's at the end.
Oh, okay, I
It
was
says
gonna
that.
say, I'm reading.
I'm just saying,
Okay,
and
got
maybe
it.
that's not the right paragraph for that, but somewhere I think it should have a step increase for repeat violations.
I did have a question about that one before when we talked about it, was, you know, if I'm with, you know, Sesame Street vending and I'm sending people out, are we giving the person at the door a fine, but also fining their company, or is it only fining the company?
You would have to find a company.
Because I didn't want the in particular vendor that, because these groups all hire high school kids and college kids to sell books and knives and whatever else all summer. So, if they have one kid come to your door and then another kid come to your door, that's because the company's sending them, not because the kids are like, yeah, I'm picking this specific house.
And the multi-billion-dollar company doesn't care if they get a minor misdemeanor. 711.12, to having to have a bond. It says that they have, if it's an out-of-state person or if the company is out-of-state. Why do we care that they're out-of-state? Either you need somebody to have a bond or you don't. That's like saying, well, if you live out-of-state, you might cause damage to this guy's house, so you need a bond. But if you live in-state, we trust you. It's got to be one way or the other. Whether we make everybody have a bond or nobody have a bond. I don't like the selectiveness of saying, well, only out-of-state people. 711.13, it says the police chief or their designee may issue the badge. I think we had mentioned that before. It should be shall issue a badge. I think as a resident, I expect that the person who's coming to my door will have that identification badge, not they might. So I think that needs to say shall. And then my question again was on 711.99, talking about the penalty with step increases. So those were my questions or suggested revisions.
Okey-doke, minor, I think. First page, section 1. It's just under part, capital P, again, minor, but then we go to section 711.05 G2, where it states no peddler shall sell or offer, where we talk about from the police department, we want to include after that or their designee. I mean, to be consistent, we've always been saying, or their designee.
Well, I think we said the police chief or their designee.
Okay, so you don't want to do it for the police?
That's why we just
Yeah,
wanted
because
the
they
department.
do get the license from the police department.
Okay, all right, so I'll mark that off. Then we go to 711.06, and that there, the chief of police or their designee. And then 711.09.
Wouldn't that just be the police department? Maintains the records?
Typically, you designate a person to be responsible, and in that instance, it's the chief, unless the chief gave that to somebody else, yeah.
So 711.09 B5, where it talks about the discretion of the service safety director or their designee. Number 10 of that same section, police chief or their designee. And then, I forgot to put down what meeting this was discussed. Well, no, I got it right here. At our February 6th committee meeting, Auditor Lewis had mentioned, she suggested a checklist accompany the permit application so the individual applying knows the steps to be taken and information to be I don't think the committee made any comment to that. She just suggested that,
I would think the police department can prepare such piece of literature and just hand it out without anything coming from council on that. That's just a
Okay.
helpful guide to make their job easier and make the person who's asking for the permit their job
Or somebody
easier.
could make them a checklist and give it to them to hand out.
Now, we could put it in there that they will create a checklist and they will create the policy instead of just leaving it up to whether they want to or not.
Something tells me that it should be created for them, the checklist, and that they will hand out a checklist with.
Who's going to write the checklist?
I don't know, if we had the list of everything that had to be done, we could very easily just copy paste it into the,
I feel like you're volunteering.
I guess I'm on the side that they're the ones doing this. If it makes their job easier, they can do it, or if they don't want to, I don't know that it's our place to tell them how to run their department. You know, they've got a checklist to get a golf cart inspected, they give you that.
oh.
And they do that because it makes their job easier. So in this instance, if this makes their job easier, they can create a similar checklist and have it available to hand out. Who knows, maybe they don't, maybe they already have one.
so we don't want to make any reference in this draft legislation,
I do not.
okay?
I don't see a problem either way.
Pardon?
I mean, I guess I do see a problem if we put it in there and tell them what to do and they get mad at us.
Jim?
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't want to make their lives harder either.
Next, Mrs. Slater at that time, in her citizen capacity, had mentioned, questioned if the committee wanted to put a minor exemption in place, because there had been talk about Girl Scout cookies, going around and selling Girl Scout cookies. Are they going to be required to?
And your answer to that at that time, Mr. Gobrick, was?
I was all in favor of that. I don't think that we need to be charging Boy Scouts, Girl
The
Scouts,
school soccer team.
school soccer team, kids selling candy bars.
So you're, we putting a minor
I
exemption?
think we used the word youth organizations.
I was gonna say, you guys never made that decision.
I remember having.
No,
a
we
discussion.
didn't.
Yeah.
This was just things that were brought up, and that's why I'm,
I'm all for it, because if they come in front of my desk and they're out there citing kids, one, I'm gonna be pissed, and two, I'm not prosecuting.
Right, that's what I was asking you to repeat, because I knew you said that.
Mhm.
But I would say maybe a phrase about a youth organizations are exempt.
Youth and school organizations, I mean.
Nonprofit?
well, I think there is,
Nonprofits opening up the door to a lot of people to ring your doorbell.
Some of the nonprofits open
Yeah.
up a lot of other, a whole lot of.
because you know here they talk about religious and
That's
charitable
in order.
organizations under 71105. So is the committee saying that we would like Mr. Gobrick to insert?
Youth
An
organizations.
exemption for youth organizations.
Yeah, would that be under 71105 too? Just another letter?
Probably. Lawyer can answer that.
I was looking at where it might be.
Yeah, we just changed the title to add another comma and add in youth organizations, and then put in a new letter that says,
Void this for youth.
huh?
I said void this for the youth. When it comes to the little kids selling you popcorn, just say yes.
Okay, and so we know where we're going with that? The exemption?
Yep.
And then lastly, at that same meeting, Mr. White had brought up having a residence for no soliciting registration list. This states, you know, any resident address shall have the right for no soliciting upon said address listed within the city of Bucyrus. Any resident address can apply to have a no-knock and block for their resident address. The resident agrees to pay the sum of $10 one-time fee for said service from the City of Bucyrus. The City of Bucyrus, Ohio shall provide all soliciting parties with a list of this no-knock and block registration list for the cost of $100 to each party. At the time of issuing permit for soliciting within the City of Bucyrus, the penalty of $25 per resident that any said individual of said company, group, organization violates said ordinance. The penalty is if they violate. This ordinance applies to any and all companies, groups, organizations inside or outside the City of Bucyrus, Ohio. And then opt-out can be done by any resident at any time with no refund. So I think this was just brought up by Mr. White. There was no, yes, we agree, no, we don't, but I wanted to bring that up.
I'm pretty sure Kevin had agreed and said that he couldn't see people having to pay to have their name on the
Yeah,
list.
I'm absolutely in favor of that. I don't want the resident to have to pay to be on the list. And then I think for the company who needs that list, it should be one of the requirements of their getting their permit. Whatever the actual cost, what's the cost that we would normally charge, for a records request or whatever, if we're charging a certain amount per page, it should just be that nominal cost.
Who's gonna maintain the list would be my question.
Well, I think the police department probably has to be the one to at least give the list out, because they're the ones that are issuing their permit. At the time that I think if there is such a list, at the moment you're handed your permit, you probably ought to be given a list of where not to go.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm gonna give $100 to get my name on this list, I'm really gonna be pissed if somebody shows up at my door.
Yeah, you're not giving any.
That's my point, but
That's the people. who
That's
are
my
getting
point. I
this.
believe that when you get your permit to go solicit, you should be given the list of where you don't go. It shouldn't be an option that they can buy the list. I think it needs to be included in the permit fee, that they're going to be given the list.
But in the meantime, we also would need to know where people would call to be put on that list or email, which I hate to say it, I would say that be the administration office to create.
Probably, and then the administration office can forward that to
list
the PD.
The police department.
I just think our police have a lot better things to do than
Well,
maintaining
Well,
lists.
They're not maintaining the list. That would be-
The list can be maintained, in administration office and forwarded, updated.
Tommy, you're up.
You're welcome.
Let's just move on. I got it.
So we're saying that we like the idea of the no soliciting registration list.
Just
However, we don't want the resident to pay to have his or her name put on the list. Are we charging then the solicitor $100 for this list?
No, I think whatever
Okay.
the cost of the
It should be,
page.
it should be a part of the fee for the permit, because you can't give them a permit to go door to door and not tell them where they can and can't go.
Okay.
I mean, that's wrong. That'd be me like looking at you and saying, hey, you can deliver pizzas, but I'm not telling you which part of the block can't have pizza,
And then the penalty of $25 per resident if they violate this ordinance.
I actually think that's okay. I mean,
Well,
if you're gonna have a list
I
that
don't
you
think
can't go
that the
there,
penalty belongs on there. I think the penalty belongs in here in 711.99, which says if you're guilty of this, it's a minor misdemeanor, but that's where we talk about the stair-step approach.
Yep.
That if you violate it the first time, okay, it's a small slap on the wrist, but if you violate it for the 50th time, you're gonna be coughing up some money to keep you from violating it the 51st time, you know what I mean?
Do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Gilbert?
I have no idea I was peeing. I wasn't here for that conversation.
we think Greg White's idea is great to add in. However, the price that we're charging people for violating it would be in the end of it, not right in the section.
In the
So-
stair-stepped approach to
Yeah, the
every
stair-
other violation.
Because if you know that, 112 Mansfield Street in either direction is a no-go and you decide to go there anyway, then you should be charged for violating. You were given that list, you knew where to go. So
Yeah, that'd work.
But no, we should not be charging people to be on a list to have people not come to their house either. They just have to contact the administration to have their name placed on the list. That will then be forwarded to the police
And that could
department.
be something you guys incorporate into the city's website, that somebody could just click on it, and maybe there is never a paper form. Maybe it's just a simple, Google Doc on the city's website that you can go to. So there's.
You hear this?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That the administration can divvy that out.
No.
Smart girl home now.
Okay. I see that you get a copy of Mr. Goldberg of what we were provided by Mr. White,
All right.
and for you to look at, use, reference. Okay. So we're done with that one?
Yes.
And we'll wait for a new draft. And you know something I just thought of, when we were on animals and fowl, I'm gonna backtrack here. We're gonna wait until Mr. Goldberg has revised the draft that we looked at tonight, then we'll send it to.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it to them.
I think so, yeah.
And there was a veterinarian that also assisted Victoria Caldwell in their preparation, and that was
Yeah, I remember her saying that.
Price. I'm pretty sure that's what I had on my notes, was Price, so. Okay. Next, taxi cab. Our draft that we got from Mr. Goldberg. Y'all had a chance to look that over?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Myers, do you have any comments?
One change that needs to be made.
Okay.
381.04 insurance requirement. You are listing that the city of Bucyrus needs to be listed as a certificate holder. Then in the next sentence, you say that the policy shall further contain a clause obligating the surety company or insurance company writing such policy to give the current industry standard written notice to the mayor. The written notice will only be delivered to whomever the certificate holder is. So you need to change written notice to the mayor and written notice to the certificate holder being the city of Bucyrus.
Okay.
It's two different people.
Just to be clear, that's what it said in 2023. That's not what I changed.
Yep, I
So,
just caught it and pointed it out, that's all.
Okay.
So what I would do, I would just take the word mayor and written notice to the city of Bucyrus.
Okay. Sounds good.
Otherwise, I love it.
Aaron, did you have any comments?
No, I guess not.
Well, that's what we're here for. What are your
Well,
comments?
no, because I mean, I was also looking at the insurance requirement.
Right.
And
That was one of
I
your
know
concerns.
that we had at the minimum amount the state required, but wasn't it for like commercial vehicle, like it wasn't, because a lot of these people think it's state minimum, safe auto, the general, and that doesn't even cover what you need for an accident without it being, somebody's paying to be in your car. I thought it was
I know we
state
have,
minimum for the type of vehicle that it is, like.
But I think that it referenced
I was just saying, I just, because some of these people are gonna read this and be like, oh, see, state minimum auto coverage, got it. And I didn't think that the wording was quite sufficient. Like state minimum for taxi cabs and other vehicles. Because that is a different state minimum. That was my only thing, because when I read it, I was just like, but then Kevin seemed to be okay with it, so, but yeah.
because it referenced back to the Ohio Revised Code.
Right, but also, I mean, you can reference back to the Ohio Revised Code, but if you don't say, We had police officers downstairs giving out.
I understand that, but we just, a few minutes ago, said we want to take language out that's not.
Well, no, but it's that specific type. So
Yeah.
state minimum for, taxi cabs or, that way they know that it's more than just state minimum coverage. I don't want somebody getting the wrong coverage because they didn't understand. That's all. I mean,
I don't think I asked you, Jim, did I, if you had any comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Do you have the or the draft up on your computer there, Mr. Gobrick, or
Yes, what's up?
the caption? Where it talks about the second line, under Title 11, we'll want to put the word entitled.
Okay.
Section 1, the first sentence, where it says Chapter 381, we'll want to follow what it was up in the caption, et sec, S-E-Q, E-T, S-E-Q. Second sentence, after taxi cab licensing, we'll want to insert the word under. And then following suit, what you've done on your other drafts, we'll want to insert, or I think we should insert, Chapter 381, and then it's taxi cab licensing and all the different subsections.
Yeah,
38101, 38102, 38103, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I would say a little index or table of contents is nice.
Can do that.
38102.
Also, that part wasn't done by me.
Right.
38102, second paragraph, second line, where it says chief of police, or we'll want to strike out his and insert there.
Wait, what?
381.02.
Yeah, 381.
It says his.
I was gonna say, I didn't change anything in that. Do you guys want to change the whole thing?
Well, I'm just saying,
Anytime there's like a his, change it to there.
yeah, that's what,
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing-
We've been avoiding his and her, and that way we don't have to keep writing his or her.
You guys are gonna have to decide whether or not I can make changes on my own or do exactly what I'm told when I'm told to do it.
We decided that a couple of years ago because they were writing out his or her, and then they won't just his, and somebody got upset about it being his because what if it's a female? And then, if you write her, now you're leaving the guys out. So we were just writing there, and we weren't offending any particular person so that everybody's
Gotcha.
covered. That was why we've done it. You were definitely not here. That was 2 law directors ago.
but we've been
Yeah.
we've had that discussion.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, we hadn't actually told him why we were doing it. So when we were saying there, he was looking at the police chief, that was Neil Ossenheimer, his designee. I mean, that makes sense for train of thought value. But what if our next police chief was female, then, are we going to make her angry by referring to her? And vice versa. That was why we've done it. Because we don't know who's going to be in that position.
So rather than my going through my changes, do you want me to just leave it up to you to look at the draft and you do it the way you see fit? There's a lot of places where we need to change or insert or their designee.
Their
But
designee.
I mean, that's fine. If we want to go ahead and do the draft, I'm going to be coming back and
You want to shoot that over to
I was gonna say, you want
I would say
you wanna
just-
just email that to me?
I would be happy to email that to you.
Much appreciated.
That'd be awesome.
Or I could email that to Miranda, and then you can email that along with the other email that I'd sent to the law director, which we're not quite sure where that's at now.
Perfect. Is that all we
Thank
have
you.
on this one?
Solid plan.
Open projects. Any open projects to discuss?
I had marked a couple that could potentially be removed. On the property maintenance code ones, the 2 of them on the top box, Since those have both been referred to their individual ad hoc committees.
I agree.
Can they be removed from this committee's list?
Well, I had talked about that once before, but I think they should.
Does the ad hoc report back to full council, or does it
Full
report back?
council.
Okay, so yeah, I don't
Council.
see a problem with removing any of that either.
I would suggest removing those first two as well as fire department staff.
Just the first two?
Oh, I guess all three of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the first two boxes is
I
what
only
I
made
said.
highlighted notes and then the second two. Fire department
Yep.
staffing.
Agreed.
When I ran into you today, Mr. Garbrick, you were working on 450 Dudley. Is that a done deal, or do we need to leave that in here yet?
As soon as I get the death certificates from the health department tomorrow, it should be a done deal.
Should we leave it till the next meeting or remove it?
Oh,
Leave it till the next meeting, I
Okay.
guess.
I say,
not until the deeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I get the death certificates, I can file a deed.
And then the appointments to the property maintenance appeals board. Since that's been done, to come off.
No, that has not been done. Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, I thought we finished that.
No, that was where there was discussion on who was the chief appointing authority. And the last discussion was, and I don't have my paperwork on that with me, but it was basically we were just going to turn it over to,
administration.
turn the information over to the council president was how it was left. I'm not sure what information we were going to turn over, but that has not been done.
Okay.
So that's one that we probably ought to put back on the radar a little higher.
No more public, or no more open projects? And then next, public participation.
Chris Mauritz, 226 Plymouth Street. I wanted to mention that Monday morning, 9 o'clock, they are going to be having traffic commission meetings, so anything you guys gathered, it could be up for Monday, hand it over to them.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. So I have a couple questions that I want to bring up about the traffic control for the new project. One of the things that wasn't brought up, that was brought up before, was the length of turn lanes, okay? Also the setbacks of the turn lanes, because people trying to turn off of Southern onto Sandusky, that turn lane is clear up there to where delivery trucks and other people can't make that turn.
So we talked about moving the stop bars back.
Right, but
We mentioned Beal.
But you only mentioned Bill, you never mentioned
I think
Sandusky.
that would be done when he has his final
Right.
engineering done.
So those were two things. Another thing was having turn lane lights, you know, for the people going north and south on Sandusky.
I did
He mentioned that to
I
where
know.
it's cost prohibitive because it would require a whole new
Okay.
system.
So now we're going to go to the animal and fowl. And it's under, I'll wait, Vicki, till you get it out. It's under 505.06, nuisance conditions prohibited, which none of you guys brought up, which I thought was pretty. So I'm going under section C.
Or 505 what?
505.06, nuisance conditions prohibited. It states, any animal which scratches, digs, urinates, or defecates upon any lawn, tree, shrub, plant, building, or school grounds, or any other public or private property, other than that the owner or person in charge or control of such animal is hereby declared a nuisance. So you're basically telling every owner of a dog in the city of Bucyrus that if they walk their dog down a certain street and they have to urinate, it's a nuisance. So are you guys gonna require them to wear doggy diapers, everywhere they take their dog?
No, I missed that, and I
Yeah.
agree with you wholeheartedly, so,
As do
duly
I.
noted, yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
I personally think it should be listed like not the schools, because you do have people that walk over the school ground and they pee on the playground equipment. I mean,
That's a private property issue.
don't take your animal on the,
Right.
It's a private property.
I mean,
Well, and private property is listed here.
right. So, the urination doesn't bother me, but the other part does,
Well, the defecation's all right too, if they have a bag to pick it up in,
if they pick it up.
so.
Okay, and I know some people in certain neighborhoods have signs that tell people to pick up, this. The other thing was no person being the owner or in charge of the control of any shall permit such a dog to commit a nuisance on any school grounds, city park, or other public property, or upon any private property other than the owner or person in charge of control of such dog, without the permission of the property owner. So basically, it's the same thing, okay? So those two sections need to be changed, all right? Because the right-of-way is actually public property, and so.
Good catch, being a dog owner.
You're all right.
See, I'm not, my cats stay inside.
I read through this. I laughed when I saw that. Okay, so now I'm going to the peddlers and solicitors law, which is chapter 711. Okay? And I'm going to section 71102. Okay? So if we're going to have a no soliciting documentation, and Mr. Sean has brought this up before because she has a no solicitor sign she stated on her door, yet people still knock. And it goes in here, it says, no solicitors invited. Place a business, determine the owner and occupant, contain the words no solicitors, or language saying, including non-specific signage indicating night shift and all that other stuff. So I question that if we're going to have the other thing too, because they don't care if you have a sign or not. They're going to come up and knock on your door no matter what. And even Vicki said that's happened to her.
So I'm lost in what your question is.
Well, if you're going to put the no knock list in, then you might want to revise that section there.
Or maybe add the no-knock list to that section.
Or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. But you're not saying that to do away with people putting signs up?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Oh, no.
Because, if you want to put a sign on your door, but you don't feel like filling out the form, I think you're entitled to the same privacy.
That's
either way.
correct. So that's got to be in there. So then, excuse me, the next section I'm going to is section 71105. And I know this is kind of hard sell to think, but I think anybody that is going door to door should have to get a permit no matter what. Okay? Religion, whatever, schools, whatever, they at least have to file for a permit. Not saying you have to charge for it, but everyone, if you're going to make it mandatory for one, you make it mandatory for everybody, just to get the permit.
Even the youth organizations, you believe?
I believe everybody should get a permit.
That's why he said what he did.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for clarification.
I'm not against them, but I'm just saying if you're going to make it fair for one, you make it fair for everybody. Everybody follows the same rules.
Would your suggestion be that those Girl Scouts or whomever has to do the background check?
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying they have to get a permit.
But in
But
the
you don't
permit
have-
requirements, you have to get a background check.
There's a whole lot of requirements.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying all they have to do is get a permit.
So, and maybe an ID instead of the word permit?
No,
Because we're
because if you get IDs, how long is it going to take to get 100 Girl Scouts their freaking IDs? And that's a waste of time. I'm just saying.
But that's part of the permit.
I know, but what I'm just saying is make it just where they only have to register for a permit and nothing else.
Don't think that works very well.
Well, that's just food for thought. Okay, so the next section I'm going to, let me see here, let me get the right material. I'm still in 71105. I'm going to section G, license required fees. And the next section down, number 1 and 2. Are these going to cover the cost of making all these IDs? Are they going to cover the cost of the officers that we're paying per hour to do this, or whoever the designee is? Is that going to cover the cost? Because even Kaylee has brought up before too, about, are we going to recoup our costs in this program? Okay?
Could I ask the law director a question on that, Greg?
Sure.
Does the cost need to be put in the legislation, or could it just say a fee determined by the service director?
I think it should be in there.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a police officer who's making $25 an hour or whatever, and he has to make out buku, the cost should recoup the amount of time and effort that he's putting into this, so that we're not spending money and they're not paying for it.
Could we ask Mr. Starner to think about this and get back to us with your recommendations for what these fees should be?
And I guess if I may ask a question of Mr. White, do you have any thoughts on what you think those fees should be?
Well, you have to determine who's doing all this and how long does it take them to get this all done? To take the pictures, to issue the IDs, to do the background checks?
And that's per
Yeah, that should be
ID.
per
Yeah,
ID.
per applicant, yes.
Yeah, per applicant. I mean, if some company comes in here and files the permit and has 15 people, that's going to absorb a lot of time of that officer, that these fees don't even cover his hourly cost.
Right now, it does not say per. So that looks like you can just get all $5 for one day, so that.
Plus, are we paying for the IDs too?
We do.
So that should be
So
encouraged.
probably $25 instead of $5, yeah.
Something that is, not as, beyond reasonable, but something that recoups our cost. What was the other thing? I do agree with you for setting the fines. Okay, that was on my sheet. Okay. Also, under 711.09, under issuance ID cards, you guys are missing number 4. Under B.
Yep, 1, 2, 3, 5.
1, 2, 3, 5. So you're missing 4 there.
Where are we talking about? Oh, yeah. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 5. Yeah.
Okay, the other thing, Mr. Myers, I do agree with you, and I had in my notes here under 711.12, application to file bond. I think everybody should have to file a bond. I agree with you.
All or none, I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous to say if you live in the state, we trust you more.
No.
And just for a point of reference, nobody asked, but I made notes. I did a quote today for myself just to see what it would cost. To do a $10,000 bond for myself, monthly was $10, annually was $100, a 2-year was $175, and a 3-year was $250. So it's really not requiring that, it's not asking somebody to break their bank.
The other thing I questioned was 711.14 was the fee schedule. The investigation fee as provided in section 71108 shall be $50 per person per year. Is that going to cover the cost of doing that background check?
And I guess my question now that you say that, why are we having 2 separate fees, an investigation fee and a license fee? Just put them all together in the license fee, or the permit fee.
So, and then the last section was 711.99. The fines, I think all the fines should be in there for everything. And also, the only thing that I would like to ask this committee to look at, if someone has been charged, can we suspend their permit?
That's in there.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's not.
If they've been charged, oh, it's convicted.
was gonna say,
Only if it's
that's
taken
a violation
convicted.
of due process.
But can we suspend?
No,
Because
that's a
we can
violation of due process.
The service safety director can suspend permits. Why can't we suspend someone's duty, privilege to go around until the court case, or is that illegal?
Suspend and not revoke.
I didn't say
will-
revoke.
I will point out that if you're at a job and you are charged with a crime, they can place
This is
you on a
true.
leave type of a thing. So I think in that instance, if you use the words suspend their rights until, look into it and see.
I was gonna say, that's something I can look into.
I'm just thinking, why can't we, if we can do suspending of other permits?
Because I guess
why
there's a
can't-
difference between being charged with a crime and just being accused of a crime. Right?
Yeah, you got people who make accusations all day long.
But when a law enforcement agency actually charges.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over, and this is kind of not long, this is under the taxi cab. 381 ETSEQ.
What section are you hopping to?
I'm going to 3801, or 381.03, and I'm going to go, well, my print office, where it says, prior to issuing a taxi cab license for the actual vehicle intended to be utilized as a taxi cab, the chief of police or his or her designee shall inspect the vehicle to ensure that the same is safe for operations and free from any material defects. Okay, and that's not defined in the definitions. Which would make the same hazards to operate, or should it say to operate or the occupants? My question is this: are these officers trained in vehicle inspections? Okay, that's my first question. Or should we require, or maybe require them to go for a state inspection? To the State Highway Patrol inspection, motor vehicle.
State inspection into the, when they're applying.
Well, and we have to, as firefighters, have the state inspect our vehicles.
That's true.
So I think that's eases up the burden here, number one.
Right.
And they are given a paper copy of an inspection. I like it.
So, because, that's what I was gonna bring up, our vehicles have to be inspected, and we have to maintain our vehicles in a certain thing, and our lights and everything to a certain degree. So that way, that the state would do the inspection for the mechanically sound interior and exterior conditions of the vehicles.
I don't know if the state looks at interior stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Especially if you list it as interior or exterior.
Yep,
If you list it that you want them to look at it, they'll look at it.
yeah, they will. So if you put both exterior, interior, then that'll be,
For both the safety of
the
occupants and,
the operator. That's the terminology I think that should be added, is for the occupants also.
yeah, because if the back seat's all ripped up and there's something that pokes through somebody or,
That's all. I appreciate your time.
What?
You got a question for me?
Not a question, just, on the numbering where you said we were missing 4?
Yeah.
I went and checked our codified ordinance book, and
Was 4 removed?
it was a number. They did, they went 1, 2, 3, 5.
So it
we
was
just
not
need to
anything
It was removed in
Yes,
1960.
yes, something wasn't missed.
No, I just,
It was just not numbered.
I
correctly, but
noticed
thank
that
you.
when I was reading through it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
actually, Greg, would you mind emailing any of that to Miranda so that when she's emailing?
What do you want emailed?
Like, just your suggestions, just
Oh,
a
yes.
little hash, like, hey, don't forget such and such, or,
Yeah, sure. I mean, to me, if we're going to have taxi cab regulations, we ought to think about the occupants. Okay, the people that rent, that are using the taxi cab for their safety, that these vehicles are sound.
Yep, that makes complete sense.
Thank you.
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. Just want to let you guys know, I just sent Miranda an email with my suggestions. Would like to say I feel like that's much more expeditious than standing up here for 30 minutes, so.
I have a question. On this taxi thing, you realize why the city doing that when they can just tell Uber to come in here? Uber, Lyft, their cars are automatically inspected. They gotta take care of them anyway. Instead of having a taxi service.
We don't control who runs which businesses. If somebody wants to have a taxi business, they're welcome to.
Oh, so this is if somebody owns a taxi service and they're not going through Lyft or,
Hey,
Correct.
okay.
I wrote a very long law director's report about whether we could do that, so I wonder if he's read that.
Yeah, I mean, in the bigger city, when Lyft and all of them comes in, their cars are like, I think it's like up to 10 years old. You can have a car older than 10 years old.
I believe we have a local Lyft driver.
I only know one local
I only
bus
know
driver.
one.
To your point though, for actually to get commercial insurance on one, the age of the vehicle actually matters, and they won't insure on a commercial policy potentially some of the vehicles that you might see being used as taxis nowadays.
Right, like my semi truck, when I open up when I get my truck, my semi truck can't be no older than 10 years old. And then it has to be, if it's older than that, I gotta get a DOT inspection on it every 6 months.
Okay, do we have any more public participation?
Don't you dare.
Seeing no one, we will adjourn at 8:02 PM.
Service Committee, June 5th, 2025.
Service Committee called to order at 8:09. Members present, Sierra Chair, Kevin Myers, welcome. Terry Spiegel, new member, Chris Mauritz, Chair. Any public participation at this time? Seeing none, I'd like to bring up South Sandusky Sewer and Stormwater. Mr. Dillon.
Hey, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
Oh, there we go. This
Take
is
me
about
with
past
you when
my
you leave.
bedtime. Okay, so I'm gonna pass out some,
That's my bedtime, I will pass out.
yeah, I'm gonna pass out already. I will give you some papers. I will not pass out.
Different pass out.
So this is the project that just keeps on giving here. So I initially talked to everybody here about this project when we submitted it for OPWC back in the fall of last year. At that time, it was a water line replacement and sewer separation project with the shortcomings of the water fund. That we then talked to OPWC and begged for mercy, and they allowed us to modify the project scope since it hadn't formally been approved yet to remove the water line portion of the project. So now we are down to just a sewer separation project. What I'm presenting to you today is, in doing the research for this project, we have come across a pretty substantial amount of information about the large elliptical pipe that runs down Sandusky Avenue from Beale Avenue south to the Little Scioto. That pipe was originally put in the early 70s. Originally designed, we found the calculations from Justin Early when he was city engineer back in the late 60s, early 70s. And that pipe was designed to carry about stormwater from about 480 acres worth of town. So basically the entire, a big part of the south part of town that is south of Continental Divide, made to drain to Little Scioto. So with that, there have been some projects that have cut off drainage areas, that have diverted since the 70s. But what we've realized is that this pipe has not only the capacity, but also the depth to be able to service areas on Southern Avenue next to between Railcar and Eagle Crusher, and also the storm sewer that was separated with the groups 1, 2, and 3A projects in the southeast quadrant of town. The stormwater currently ties back into the Buffalo sewer and has not truly been separated. This pipe has the capacity and the capability of being able to service those areas that were really landlocked before. So with that comes, we've tripled the size of the drainage areas. So what I came to you initially, pipe sizes and everything are just, they're not even close. We were intending to put in a 4-foot diameter pipe, and now you can see on this map that I'm showing you, we're talking about putting in a box culvert that's 8 foot wide and 4.5 foot tall down Sandusky Avenue. So substantially larger, and with that is more cost. So the project that we're looking at right now is we've reduced it as much as possible to try and get the work within the Sandusky Avenue right away that will be affected by the paving project completed first so that it can be done. We will fix the road, and then ODOT will come through and pave. And then all of the branches we will do after, just in an effort to reduce costs. We've talked to ODOT about this due to the large pipe sizes. Lead time to get the box culvert and install time is drastically increased. ODOT is willing to push back the paving a year to accommodate a project schedule like we're talking about. But at this point, what I'm here talking about is are we going to continue to entertain this project? So originally we presented $1.5 million project that was sewer separation on Sandusky Avenue, Kilbourne, Allen, Bruce, and then up to Southern Avenue and Marion Road. That project is now at $5.1 million. So Kaylee can comment to the numbers, in Finance Committee, but we have not done any storm separation projects with the 2025 budget with the intention already of saving for this project. But it would be the intention and really the need would be that we would have to go after some kind of funding, whether that a combination of grant and loan funding, in order to be able to complete the project. Likely the city in the stormwater fund will have available somewhere around $2 million to be able to put towards the project, and the balance would initially go, we would probably apply through WPCLF, the state revolving loan funds, and talk to the senators and everybody we can as much as possible to see if we can get any principal forgiveness or any H2 Ohio grants type money. I have some large maps that if anybody's wants to look at, you're more than welcome. I have the original drainage maps that Justin Early presented to the city, as well as the overall scope of this project. This is one phase of a very large project that extends all the way up through East Street, up to up to Oakwood, basically to the High Point, servicing all of those areas, and then extends all the way across south of Eagle Crusher, runs west of Railcar up to Southern Avenue, down Southern Avenue, and up Highland. So it's a very extensive project. We've done, as a part of the budget this year, we've done a lot of preliminary investigation work to determine clearances around existing sewers and tie-in to existing storm sewers. And we've got a plan that can work, understanding that it's going to be a multi-phase project, likely a 4 or 5 phase project. But it is separating nearly an additional 350 acres of town that is not currently separated, that feeds into both the Buffalo sewer and the large 48-inch trunk sewer that still runs down Southern Avenue.
So one thing is, With the scope of this project, it's going to make the EPA very pleased with our progress, correct?
Yeah, so as a part of the Phase 2 negotiations with US EPA, this initial phase, so as I've researched in this project, this has kind of grown out based on all the information we found. So with the Phase 2 negotiation, the initial Sandusky Avenue project was submitted as we can do this project, here's the area that it will separate and the percentage decrease of CSO volume. They should be even happier to know that this has potential to decrease that
Are
even
we getting
further.
kicked back to the state EPA, or are we staying with US EPA? That was something
We
was
don't
talked
know
about.
that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we have no idea yet.
You mentioned that we've removed the water line portion of this. We discussed it a few months ago, and Tommy brought up the fact that we've had X number of breaks in this section already, and it's aged water line, and we're looking at being another 10+ years until this road is tore up again to be able to fix them. The breaks happen, we're gonna be digging this road up anyway and ripping up the new pavement.
So
We
I will
talked
say
about-
some of this, so part of what's in this, I did not bring a bunch of copies mainly because this is still preliminary estimate to get scope of project. But part of this, when you're putting in pipe this large, everything is in the way. So this is why I've been talking to Columbia Gas and Omni about fiber. But also in here, I have budgeted all of the water services across Sandusky Avenue get redone in this
Okay.
project.
I thought I heard
because
you
they're
say
all
we
in the
were
way.
removing that.
Yes, we removed the main line, but all of the things that are incidental to putting a pipe this big in the right of way are still in there. So
are all the water lines being replaced?
all of the crossings of Sandusky, everywhere we cross this water line, it will be in the way and it will be replaced.
But there are
The
other-
main line that parallels Sandusky Avenue out in the tree lawn will not be replaced yet.
That's what I was getting.
Okay, so that's why we're not gonna do it now. Okay, that,
Correct, yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah.
dive further into that, but
Yeah,
that.
correct.
that
It
can
is,
be
it
done
is
later
all
without
fun.
Screwing the road up, gotcha.
It is off on the east side of the road. Most, if not all of the water line that is in Sandusky Avenue will be moved and replaced incidentally to this project.
So everything that's under the new roadway is gonna be new stuff.
Yep,
That's all I need.
and in this $5 million estimate is also reconstruction, full reconstruction of Sandusky Avenue from Beale Avenue to Kilbourne. And then the box culvert turns east and runs down Kilbourne. Full reconstruction of Kilbourne from Sandusky to Walnut. And then west half of Sandusky Avenue from Kilbourne to Marion Road will be reconstructed.
So Kilbourne is going to be fully reconstructed.
Yeah,
And Kilbourne down at, what is it, south of Walnut, there's a lot of drainage issues. Would that hopefully then alleviate that?
yeah, so.
Because the water was coming from one area to another and flooding a
Yeah,
person's house.
the
and
main
water.
area was right behind the apartments, there on the corner of Kilbourne and Walnut.
And they were trying to say that a lot of that was drainage caused by.
No, but this will give them an opportunity to run a storm tile back to their house if they so desire.
Okay.
In conjunction with this project?
It could be done in conjunction with this project.
That would make it.
It's kind of a gray area when you get into these. The middle of the block is the low point.
Right.
That's not public right of way back in there. What we typically do is, if at all possible, we'll even stub pipes out of the right of way so that it's if the homeowners want to run something and tie it in, they are more than welcome.
Will they be given that opportunity, made fully aware of all those
Oh, yeah.
opportunities? Okay.
Yeah,
But
this.
Due to the fact that we know that there's a known issue.
Yes. And from my understanding, it's been a known issue for a long time.
It has, that's why I was asking.
Yes.
like,
That whole
with
hit
this
down there
is a-
has for a long time.
Yes, yeah, and it's,
We have a couple of places in town where we know that it's a problem,
unfortunately, Sandusky Avenue, and you can see it in the condition, Sandusky Avenue and Kilbourne, they are low. They are controlling the entire design here. They are the reason we're doing box culverts instead of round pipe. They are very low. We're going to be very low cover on our pipes if we proceed forward. But the goal here would be that by going to a box culvert rather than a round pipe, we can get, currently there's a 60-inch that runs under the sidewalk on the west side of Sandusky. We want to get into the road and kill two birds with one stone here. We can reconstruct the road as a part of the storm sewer project, and it keeps us from having to put an 8-foot wide box culvert in people's front yards.
People like that.
Yeah, because if you like trees down there, there would be none left if we had to
say,
put a
yeah.
pipe that big through there. So,
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion for this committee to give its blessing and send this project over to finance for financial considerations.
I will second that.
First by Mr. Meyer, second by Mrs. Sarek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question, Laura.
yeah.
Being as gone from as far north as it's going, and then as far south, where's the divide at? Going to be at? You can't take water from one area to from the other.
Correct.
And
So
go south with it.
This is the, I will hold this up for everybody to see to kind of give you an idea. So Oakwood Avenue up here at the top of the screen ends up being the high point. That is the divide.
Okay.
Water runs both directions, north and south from Oakwood. We are doing this small portion of this project. You can see how far it reaches out over to Highland. But yeah, we are taking the rest of the water south of the divide. So a big part of it runs through a box culvert that Lynn had designed back in '06 that runs from the Hepco Basin, as I'm told it's called, there by Whetstone Street. It runs through a round pipe around by the Baja Buildings and converts to a box culvert there, runs to the Beale Avenue Basin. So that was actually in the original drainage maps from Justin Early, which never transpired, never happened. And so that allows us, since that area has already been diverted, that allows us to do this project. Basically to reach areas that we had all but considered unreachable. The box culvert that's under the old Swan building is a huge restriction. So being able to put this stormwater on the west side of that makes a big difference. There is, it's not physically possible to get the water from Highland Avenue down to the Little Scioto east of Swan. There's just not feasible from an elevation standpoint. So this really opened some doors that we didn't think were there.
Good.
Yep. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Not for finance.
Okay.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan.
BCO Title IX is not ready yet.
We have a digitized copy of the master copy that says that it's the most recent master copy.
Okay. So I'd like to table that for today's, if anybody has any problem with that. Till next committee meeting, hopefully.
Has there been any, had all the changes made to it, to that digitized copy?
We just got the digitized copy today.
Today.
However, during the meeting, I did transcribe his statutes
While he was sitting there.
while I was sitting there.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna table that. Any open projects anybody wants to talk about? There are a lot on here, but I don't know if really any of them are that much of an emergency where we need to get rid of them today. If everybody's fine with that, then we'll move on from there. Public participation again.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. The only question I have is what's the latest update on the wastewater treatment plant? Because a lot of people in town have been asking me about that, and the last thing I could tell them is what the law director said, that there is a legal issue. Is this project on hold? Is it being delayed, or what's really happening? or what can the residents really know?
I myself haven't been able to make it to any of the meetings that we've had. I think we've had maybe one in the past month or so since then. Maybe a month and a half. Last meeting we had about it. I didn't get to make it to that one.
So there's no update?
So I wouldn't know unless Brandon knows something I don't know.
Nothing I'm gonna comment on.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Any more public participation? Seeing none, meeting adjourned at 8:27.
What were we talking about?
5th, 2025.
Platting Committee will come to order at 8:31. Members Aaron Sherritt, Clarissa Slater, Vicky DeShawn, James Mead Chair. First up, public participation. No public participation for platting. So we have a Pleasant Hill Drive alley vacation for Avita. We also have the rezoning lots for R3 to GB. We have the rough drafts. They're not printed in stone. So what we need to do is get these to the Planning Commission. If we don't get them to the Planning Commission tonight, we're going to set Avita back 20 days in their projects. So what I would like to do is send them to the Planning Commission, and we'll get them back from there, and we can take their recommendations plus our recommendations and tackle them all at once.
So do you need a motion to send this to planning?
Well, I'd like a little discussion if anybody has a problem with this. We need to address it.
So once they get it and put their recommendations, that's when we finalize legislation, correct?
They bring it back to this committee, then we discuss it.
Right.
We go through the legislation. We look at their recommendations and add those in if we think they should be.
Well, then, that's all I have.
Now, does this have to do with, the alley vacation?
Yes,
And the rezoning of the lots.
and the rezoning of the lots from
So-
R3 to GB.
So then why does the letter that we have here in front of us from Mike Keefe, zoning administrator, state, proposed legislation is not necessary for planning commission to review? Sorry I can't be here tonight to explain this project. Please see the below explanation. Then he lists all this, and then it says requesting the referral to planning commission, the request for the 3-parcel zoning reclassification. Proposed legislation is not necessary for
At the
planning commission.
time the letter was written, we did not have any draft legislation. But since the letter was written, we do have draft legislation. And I'm telling you, that's rough draft legislation.
In other words, what Mike's saying is for them to consider it, they don't have to have the actual legislation in front of them, even though we tend to usually send it, now that we have a rough draft, we can send it with it. Correct.
Okay, I will say this, just as a matter of information. We received a revised packet at 3:53 p.m. I was not aware of that because I was still upstairs getting all of this stuff ready for tonight. So I've not had an opportunity to look at the legislation, and these copies that I have in front of me were graciously given to me by Tommy Starner. So I will just say that I have no problem with the project. If you're asking, for my opinion on the legislation, again, I've not had an opportunity to look it over. And as it was pointed out earlier tonight, they would prefer that any revisions I might have be done by email rather than discussion, and so,
Okay.
So in other words, so what we need to do then is send it to planning, and we need to be looking at it as well, because we all just got it late. But it did not have to be the exact everything, so we can throw our revisions out there, and planning can go ahead and get it on their books to start looking at, and it all comes back to us to get revised completely.
I just don't want to set Avita behind 20 days.
I totally understand that. I
Okay,
just
I just
wanted
don't wanna
everyone to
stand in the-
understand where I'm at.
Okay, I don't want to stand in the way of progress, so.
Just,
So, at this point, I'll.
Just
go ahead. Go ahead, spit it out. It's okay.
That was a general statement about the email. That was not just at you. That was also because I do the same thing. So I was also saying that I'm not going to do it. I'm going to email it. So that's just wanted to clarify. That wasn't a pointed comment towards anyone. 'Cause I have been very guilty of that myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to send Pleasant Hill Drive alley vacation for Avita and the rezoning of Avita lots from A3 to GB to the Planning Commission?
To look at, yes, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Aaron? Aaron?
Yes.
Slater?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Jim's a yes. So we also have the Sunoco zoning reclassification.
Does that also have to go to planning commission?
That also has to go to the Planning Commission.
I do have thoughts on this after looking at the zoning map.
Okay.
He had requested, and I think I mentioned this to Drew, the reason I brought that up is because he had requested that it be
DB, you thought that meant?
developmental business, but either way, downtown business looks like it's solely Sandusky Avenue and maybe like part of the square. So I know it is more restrictive, so I'm wondering if general business, despite,
That's what we would want, isn't it, general business?
We can't really make that assumption. We have EB, which is neighborhood business. So we could have intended to be
Which
neighborhood
one's more
business.
closed off? He wants to be able to make changes,
Right.
so which one's gonna limit him the most?
I mean, that's up
That's
to
not-
him depending on the changes he wants. He's the one asking.
I
We
just
just
like
need to make sure because he's asked for a zoning classification that doesn't exist. So we need to figure out what the zoning actually is that he wants.
Yeah, so he said development business in his letter, so does he have to resubmit his letter?
no, I was thinking about maybe it'd be appropriate if you would ask him, or I can ask him. I don't care.
Go for it.
That fine?
Okay. I was just gonna send an email
Let me know.
with the, yeah.
I was just wondering which was the least restrictive for him, neighborhood business or general business?
Well, I don't
Which one would
think
be a better
downtown business
one?
would be more restrictive, right? I might be wrong
To answer your question, Aaron, they each have their merits and they each have different restrictions. Like I said, it all depends on what he wants to do with his
That's
business.
what I was wondering, I mean, I wasn't sure if one was more limited than the other, or if they were just,
Okay, let's just table this till we figure out what's going on. Everybody
and we're
agree?
gonna have Clarissa go ahead and ask him.
Sure.
To clarify.
Hey, we're back to open projects. Haven't even looked at it. So can we remove Lutz Drive or not?
No.
Nope.
Say not yet. I've got
Okay.
a call scheduled from, I think his name's Cole Potts, I think is his name, scheduled for Monday.
Okay. Ethel Street. Where are we at on that?
So, I think Ethel Street was, you guys wanted to vacate it, but it was right when I got on as law director, you asked me, would it be okay to do it without the railroad signature because they were busy with the storm, and I said no.
So we never did get that signature.
We never did get that signature. However, I would like to note that the stuff that was in the alleyway, or in the city's right-of-way, back up to the railroad property has since been cleaned up, thanks to the property maintenance.
Gordon Groves?
Gordon Groves and myself prosecuting that case. So that has been cleaned up.
Hey, maybe we can do that with the Mary Street alley too.
That fence is a huge issue.
I'm working.
And the cars.
All right. So we're all good on open projects? Nobody has any questions about those?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Clarissa's still looking. I'll wait.
I was just double checking. I think we did a good job of that last time, I think.
I think so too.
All right. Is there any public participation? Plating?
Vicki, this is the right one, right? About the streets.
For,
The
excuse me,
curbs,
Dylan?
The curbs and the not curbs. Right, this is what we talked about, that this is
Yes.
where I could,
But it's not, we can't comment on it, right? Because it's
No.
not.
that's fine, I don't expect you to
No.
comment on it, this is just
Just
informational.
information.
Perfect.
Yes.
I like
Just
information.
information. So I will make a sketch for everybody again.
I'll share with Clarissa.
Thank you.
Or did you?
Oh.
Yeah, I gave Brandon mine.
Oh, could I get one more? I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Well, no, you, I mean, if he doesn't have enough, you can
I
have
think
this
he has
back.
enough.
Existing gas line.
Thank you.
okay, so a gentleman was up here, concerned about the fact that we're not putting curbs on all of our streets when we do the repaving projects. Specifically up on Dudley Street, that was probably a 13-foot wide road that we did widen out to about 15, 16 feet, something along those lines. But we did not put curbs on that road. So I made this little sketch for everybody to get an idea of why we don't do that. My point in this is always that putting curbs on an uncurbed road, the curbs always end up being the incidental cost to the project. So just an idea for you. So the red that is shown on here is what a lot of our city streets look like. The sidewalks, you come out of the house, it slopes down to the sidewalk and then back up to the road. And these are uncurbed roads, and the catch basins generally sit in the tree lawn between the sidewalk and the road. In order to facilitate proper drainage, we can't just set curbs on top of that road. Instead, we have to continue the slope from the sidewalk down to the new curbs and then cut everything down in the ground, which is, I show it as a foot here, roughly 12 inches that it has to be cut down. We've seen it as much as 18 to 24 inches. Where that becomes a problem is gas lines, especially the old gas lines, the old steel lines, were hand dug, and here in town they're generally 18 to 24 inches deep. And our water lines are 42 to 48 inches deep. So when we have to cut a foot out of the road, all of a sudden we have water lines that are only 2.5 foot to 3 foot deep, and gas lines, fiber optic lines that are nearly exposed. And this is when they're installed as they're supposed to be. We come across gas service lines that are a foot deep or sitting on the bottom of the pavement as the roads exist today, and water service lines that are only, 12 to 18 inches deep. In order to replace the curbs, we have about $80 a foot on the road. In order to do the extra excavation and replace the water lines that are now too shallow, we've already established Columbia Gas will replace their lines if we're going to lower the road at no cost to the city. But the water lines add nearly another $250 to $300 a foot, depending on what size that water main is. So the curbs at $80 a foot end up being incidental, and then we have all of these other utilities that have to be moved. Storm lines that are too shallow, water lines that are too shallow, and then gas and fiber that are too shallow. So I just wanted to clarify, we are not hand selecting roads that get curbs and don't get curbs. There is a substantial cost to add curbs to a road that goes well beyond the curbs themselves. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan.
Any more public participation for plating?
Kevin.
It's a quick one. Kevin Myers, 421 West Oakwood. I know you're not able to comment on that. May I ask Dylan a question? Sure. Is there any way that for future expansion of fiber, that the city can require them to put it deeper so that if these issues ever come up, let's say 30 years from now, you want to put in a curb on Dudley Street, would that make sense? And can you dictate to them that they have to go deeper now to save us problems later?
So the only reason, give me to go back up there.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So the only reason we don't do that is we have so many utilities that we're trying to fit inside these right-of-ways in today's world. Water lines are 4 foot deep. Storm lines they vary. They're a minimum of 18 inches deep. Gas lines are 18 to 42 inches deep. Sewer lines are generally deeper. We are running out of room. At some point, we could put the fiber deeper. It'll hose us on the next storm sewer project. There's not a great answer to that, but.
Thank you.
Public participation? Plating?
8:47.
Meeting adjourned at 8:47, according.
Economic Development Committee, June 5th, 2025.
I would like to call the Economic Development Committee together called order at 8:59 p.m. Before we get started, I would like to relinquish my position as chairman because I just came on council again and I do not know that much about what's going on in this. And I would entertain a motion to appoint Ms. Scheffler Slater as the chairperson from somebody.
Let me push for that.
We got a motion from Mr. Mauritz.
I second that motion.
Vicky seconded it. Any more discussion on that? Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Mauritz?
Yes.
Ms. Sean?
Yes.
Ms. Slater?
Abstain.
And I will vote yes. So as of now, she is the chairman of this committee.
I
It's
appreciate
yours.
that. Well, thank you very much,
Yep.
Mr. Spiegel. All right, well, given that, I guess we'll start with public participation. Seeing none, open projects. We're pretty skimp in the economic development.
I was thinking that 403 can all go away and 707 could probably go away with the annex. I'm sure that's probably done or looked into by this point. The
So-
annex of Family Farm.
Yeah, I remember questioning that myself.
I have a question mark by that one.
And what I remember is that Mr. Hickman had stated that these were on here for a specific reason. And the law director said prior that they couldn't be removed, so I guess that was, I don't know if that was Mr. Gobert, but a former law director.
It was Ratliff that said that.
I think it ought to be left on there in case they ever want to get annexed. Because there's always a possibility they could, I think.
I'm fine with that.
So it'd be really nice if those properties were annexed, especially since they use our public services and our public utilities. But ultimately, I think that's the,
And I do know the House is also looking into annexing stuff right now too, so it could change. Yeah.
so I was almost, since it's on here to promote, I'm almost wondering if there's some sort of abatement that could be done to encourage that, but I don't know what the legality of that is or what the proper steps are. Does anyone know anything about abatements?
Do an abatement for someone to annex in?
Yeah, so there's these, Ty Whiteman, Urgent Care, Firelands, First Federal, TSC, Family Farm and Home. It says to promote the annexation, so we're trying to facilitate them to come to become Bucyrus proper. So my question is if there's anything that could be like a offset or what have you that could be applied to get them within city limits.
Well, I served as the enterprise zone manager and the CRA housing officer from, I think it was 2001 to 2016. That issue never came up, so I don't have an answer. But I guess that's something, we could check into.
I'll put it on my to-do list.
Good.
All right, so any other open projects? All right, seeing none, public participation? Was that a joke?
No, get ready to come to the next meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, if that's all, then we are, I would like to just, 1 second. I think we started at 8:49, correct? For a correction, okay. All right, so we're adjourned at 8:54.
Finance Committee, June 5th, 2025.
Call the Finance Committee to order at 8:56 PM. Members present are James Mead, Christopher Mauritz, Vicki DeShawn, and myself, Chair. Is there any public participation for Finance? Seeing,
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
oh, okay.
What did you say, what was it, Chris, that I need to say? That's
First Friday at Cruising with the Cops.
First Friday is tomorrow.
Cruising with the
and-
Cops is next Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. We can't comment on that since it hasn't been referred, but that was informational.
Thought it was money for the city, right,
Yeah.
Chris?
Money for the city.
Okay. Any other public participation? Seeing none. First item was the ODNR grant. I believe Public Lands and Buildings already took that off of our hands for us by requesting their legislation, so there's nothing needed from us. Because I did speak to the auditor and she said the line items and everything are already created, so finance really is out of this one. Next is the South Sandusky Water Line Project.
That's actually worded wrong. That's
Yeah, and that's supposed to be the sewer.
Storm water,
Yeah, which we have went over extensively in the service committee, but now we're going to talk about the financial aspect of it. Did you have more?
No, I can just give everybody detail.
I will just give everybody the numbers again for this project.
They hurt.
So estimated construction cost is $4,269,000 with a estimated total project, so including engineering, project admin, and contingency, is $5,150,000. And again, Kaylee will have to comment, but we did plan to spend 1.5 as it stands right now in the 2026 budget, all local money. There was also PWC, 185,000 of OPWC, and I believe there will be other carryovers as well.
I believe so, and we were splitting it between the sewer 720 fund and the sewer and stormwater fund.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I don't know that we've gotten that far, only because it's not in this year's budget. The only thing that's in this year's budget's engineering, so was to design.
Done any math with all those numbers to find out about how short we're probably gonna be?
No, we haven't got that far.
So, one thing I want to say is you mentioned, well, we could look at different grants or low-interest loans as a worst-case scenario, bonds, correct? Okay.
You can get loans through revolving loan fund at half the rates of bonds.
Right, that's why I said that
Yeah,
worst-case scenario.
And WPCLF will loan to anybody.
So in other words, the funding is going to...
What are you trying to say, Dylan?
The funding is going to be there.
Yeah, there is funding available. WPCLF is, I did not look up what their market rate is right now. It's kind of irrelevant because we're a year out from this, but they are generally I think right now they're around a 3.5%, 3 to 3.5%. This is storm sewer infrastructure, so it would be a 30-year loan.
So from my aspect, the benefit to the community, to the citizens, to the infrastructure is ridiculously great.
In my understanding, you will have to comment on this, out of the stormwater fund, are there any loans currently, or is it just I believe just the Southern Avenue project paid out of sewers and drains?
Sorry, give me just a second to turn to it. And we have budgeted less than 20,000 under the debt service and stormwater. And we have budgeted about 116,000 in sewers and drains under debt service.
I think that's just Southern Avenue project, if I remember correctly.
It doesn't have it in
Okay,
here, it just
okay.
has the loan number.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Mr. Me, any thoughts, questions, or otherwise?
No, I was just looking at the loan rates.
And I will say that really what we're looking for here is a commitment to allow us to move forward to look into this more. I don't want to be...
Get everybody's thoughts, that was my next step.
Yep, okay.
Are we covered? We got enough to do the project?
Between getting out loans and all those things, yes. I mean, we'll be okay. Because if we have to make payments or something, we have enough in there to cover payments.
Do you have an idea how much the loans are going to be?
That's one of the things, we don't know how much we can get from grants, but.
I did not want to be chasing down this project without a general understanding of this $1.5 million project that we talked about is now 5. Are we even going to entertain this? That's kind of where we're at. So the next step, we would look into loan rates. WPCLF nominates for projects in August. So we would continue on with design, kind of fine tuning this estimate. The further you are along in design, the better odds you have of principal forgiveness through WPCLF. But they don't nominate till August.
So you want us to give you the go-ahead on this, right?
Yeah, I don't need legislation. I need a general, yes, we'll consider this project, knowing that before we would apply for any
Okay.
loans, before we would do anything else, I have to come back here to get legislation.
Oh, yeah, okay, this is considering the project.
That's all this is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so you have no other questions and you're in favor of moving forward at this point?
Yes, I am.
I'm in favor of
Moritz,
moving
same
forward.
question?
Yeah. I'm in favor of moving on to this point.
Any other questions or?
No.
This is the.
I'm in favor as well to move forward.
As am I, unanimous.
Okay, good.
The next step that we can expect from you is what, from the finance portion?
So we will continue to work through design, which will help us fine tune this estimate. It'll just keep getting more detailed. And then we will also work with a grant writer that will help us apply for all of the WPCLF loans. Just fine being an engineer, I don't need to apply for loans as well.
Good.
So she will work with Kaylee to get the necessary information and everything to work that out.
Just to clarify a little bit more, Jim, so when Dylan and I had discussed this previously, and it was a $1.75 million project, we had the money cash, we wouldn't have to went out for loans to do it. So this, we're doing it at the same point in time. We moved it from a less than $2 million project now to a $5 million project. If we don't get a lot of great grants coming our way, we're probably gonna have to get some kind of loan out. But we can afford those loan payments as the years come down the line, if that makes sense.
How will this set us with the EPA?
I mean, all of this looks favorable from the EPA standpoint. So for one, we've already told them we're at least considering the first phase of this project to be completed in the next 8 years, phase 2 of their plan. Beyond that, anything we do beyond that is just better negotiation for us with EPA for future phases. There's not really a great answer to that because EPA has, they don't like combined sewer overflows, period.
So where are we?
At all, right?
Yeah, where are we on the EPA? Are we 30% done, 40% done?
I don't.
Just roughly.
I'm not gonna
guesstimate.
I'm not even gonna make a guess on that. I don't know that.
We're low.
Yeah.
We're low.
I understand
low
we're low, but if we go to the $5 million budget, is it gonna get them off our back for what?
Well, no, they'll never be off our back.
Yeah.
I know.
It'll ease the negotiations. It'll give us some negotiating.
It's like a pain pill, okay?
We have 20
never be enough.
CSOs in town. They don't want any.
Right.
Because
It'll never be enough.
we're gonna be with them for a while.
Longer than we're gonna be alive.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, we can never eliminate them all, I don't
Right.
think. But- All right, I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Again, thank you for the time this evening. Mr. Mead, do you have anything on the open project list you wish to discuss?
No, sir, I don't.
Mr. Mauritz?
On the open projects list, no. Miranda and I had gone over it earlier today. She made an updated version for all of us. Some of my suggestions were taken off of that from the last thing too, was taken off this. I haven't had a chance to look at the new updated version. That's really about it right now. We want to keep that thing we were talking about till later, or you want to bring that up tonight?
I will do it later.
Okay, yep, all right, I'm with you. We're good.
Mr. Sean?
Yes, I have 2 items. First one, the income tax levy for the swimming pool. I think an email was sent by Lisa Alsept, resident here in Bucyrus. She sent it to all council members, asked if it would be read. Her email states, "I would like to apologize that I'm unable to attend this Thursday's committee meetings, but I would like to address an issue that I know is now on the open projects list. The levy to maintain and run the pool. I will 100% back and campaign for this levy, as I realize our most precious asset in our community is our youth. Adults who have fond memories in a community tend to want to stay in that community, or at least return when they want their children to also have a wonderful childhood. I, however, do not have confidence in any past, present, or future administration to appropriate the funds correctly. Please consider having the foundation or some sort of board of control. I'm not the only citizen who is concerned with how our finances have been ran into the ditch, and I feel if citizens knew it was being handled by a trustworthy entity, they would be more apt to pass this levy."
Okay, to that point, when there's a tax levy, the wording of the levy specifically says where the money has to go and what it can and can't be used for. So to alleviate her fears and concerns, this puts a lot more checks and balances in place than if we were just funding it out of the general fund.
Right.
Then a couple questions that I have. The income tax monies, what are they going to be used for, if the levy passes?
What we had asked for in the legislation was any and all costs associated with operating and maintaining the pool. So any repairs, general maintenance, upkeep, things like that, your staff salaries, your chemicals,
Got it.
certifications, any expense that might, telephone and internet, any expense that might be affiliated, so that what the goal is to take it out of the general fund completely, so that when we get into a financial hardship, the first thing that's thrown up in the air every year is, oh, we might not open the pool. This gets rid of that problem.
Gone for good.
The other thing it does is, kudos to the people who have gone around and gotten donations, but I hate that, because I don't feel like it's not the job of, a business to try to, well, let me give you some of my profits to do it. Kudos to the people that gave, and kudos to the people who went and asked. I think this spreads spreads it out amongst everybody in the city, and it alleviates having to go and beg for money from people in the future.
And can I just add something real quick too? I don't know if a lot of people know, it's not just like these past couple years where we've had to start begging for money to operate the pool. Even smaller things, like I remember before I was even auditor, there was a summer where the administrative assistant at the time was trying so desperately to get lifeguards to come in and work, but none of the lifeguards wanted to pay. It used to be that, kids who already had their certification to be lifeguards would approach you and want a job. It was to the point where they couldn't find anyone who had the certifications, because these high schoolers either couldn't afford or didn't want to pay for it. So that was another expense that the city had to take on, or go to different organizations in town and ask them to donate money in order to get it. So,
It alleviates all that.
yes.
Then I wanted confirmation that if the levy passes, that Bucyrus City residents will be allowed to swim free at the pool.
That is absolute, and then the question that still remains, and I think it'll fall in the administration's hand to decide, what do you do for the people who don't live in town? And we talked about different things, but nothing's been set in stone. But I'll use as a for instance, I'm pointing to Dylan. So if Dylan lives in Marion, Ohio, but he works in Bucyrus, Ohio, he's paying taxes, we're collecting his money. He needs to be allowed to swim here for free, absolutely. But does that mean that everybody in Marion does? Probably not. And as you saw earlier this week, we had a day where we hit our limit of 350 people, and they closed the doors to anybody else coming in. What I don't want to see is that everybody from Gallant, Crestline, Marion, Mount Gilead comes over here because, hey, it's free swimming, and then our tax-paying residents and our tax-paying people that are employed here are not allowed in. So we've got to find a fair way, and I think that I've talked with the administration about this. I think everybody's on board with that, of coming up with a way, whether you get a pool pass right now when you come in and pay for it. Maybe what we do if this passes is, again, using Dylan, somebody like Dylan comes in and says, hey, here's my proof that I'm entitled to this pool pass. They're then given their pass.
Well, I had a constituent ask me this morning, what if you own a business in Bucyrus, but you do not live in Bucyrus?
I think if you're paying into the tax base, and that tax base is what is funding the pool, that we've got to find a way to make sure that everybody that is contributing to that tax base is treated equally and equitably, and allowed access to the pool for free.
And then, of course, the question is it just that individual that owns the business, or is it their family?
Well, we talked about family passes, so I would, again, using Dylan as an example, I don't even know where you live, Dylan, but for this conversation, you live in Marion. So if Dylan lives in Marion and his wife and kids live in Marion, but they don't work here, yeah, I think a family pass to that person that's contributing it is absolutely allowed, in my opinion, and I'm going to advocate for that.
Okay. My next is the Bratwurst Festival. Y'all know that I'm a paper person, and I type and I read, so bear with me because I'm not going to change. At the May 22nd, 25 Finance Committee meeting, I questioned the status of the legislation to be prepared for the city to enter into an agreement with the Bratwurst Festival for the monies to be reimbursed by the festival to the city for safety forces and cleaning services provided. Myers stated that the city administration had come to an agreement with the festival and that we decided that was an administrative function and that no legislation would be done. I questioned when the committee made the decision that no legislation would be done, and Mauritz replied 3 months ago, Myers replied 2 months ago, and me replied, we're all done. At the January 23rd, 2025 Finance Committee meeting, Myers stated that in his opinion, that this matter should be an administrative function as it has been in the past before the permanent agreement was in place. Myers stated that the administration should be meeting with the Bratwurst Festival to come up with a dollar amount and an agreement and then present it to us requesting legislation for that dollar amount. Chris Eicher with the Bratwurst Festival Board of Directors stated at this meeting that this should be handled administratively and festival representatives need to negotiate with the mayor and service safety director before bringing it to the committee and council. At the February 20th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting, I questioned if the administration had met with the Bratwurst Festival Board regarding the agreement for cleanup services and safety personnel. Mauritz stated that he knows that there have been talks between the two, but has not heard of any numbers. I questioned if Auditor Lewis provided a copy of the spreadsheet to the administration. She stated that she did provide a copy to the administration. I then stated that the committee will need to hear back from the administration on this because an agreement piece of legislation will need to be passed by council. Myers stated, that's the part we would have to authorize to enter into a contract with this dollar amount. Yeah, you're right. The mayor's report given at the March 4th, 2025 council meeting stated, the administration met with Doug Fote and Adam Heinlein from the Bratwurst Festival. The administration used the facts and figures compiled by Auditor Kaylee Lewis. The agreed upon total amount was for $8,000 for a 1-year contract between both parties. The administration requests legislation for a 1-year contract. So, I mean, I've listened to all the audio recordings, read the minutes, and at no time was there a decision that we weren't having legislation prepared and passed on to council.
Or if we even had to. Was that even really actually brought as a thing in that?
Well, I mean, how much more?
It was stated that we questioned whether we needed it or not, right?
Excuse me?
That was questioned whether we even needed, if the administration even needed it from us at some point in one of those conversations.
The administration at the March 4th, the mayor's report, the administration requests legislation for a 1-year contract. I think that says it all right there.
So how do we, at this point, we had no contract yet?
Well, I will take the blame on that, Vicki. I stand corrected. So with that information, I would entertain a motion requesting emergency legislation authorizing and directing the safety service director and/or mayor to enter into the contract with the Bratwurst Festival for a 1-year contract to provide safety forces and cleanup services for the dollar amount of $8,000.
So.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll do a roll call. Mr. Me?
Yes.
Mr. Moritz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeShawn?
And before I vote, I will preface my vote with, I have nothing against the Bratwurst Festival. I have said that all along since this discussion started in January of 2024.
Not against you, just in general.
I have voted no on raises for manpower, council clerk. I voted no on the reopener for AFSCME. With what information we've been told about our financial situation. And for this year, I mean, that's not to say that another time, of course, I'm not going to be on council, this is my last term here. I guess all I'm going to say is I know people think that I have a problem with the Bratwurst Festival, and I do not. But with that having been said, I am voting no.
And my vote's also a no. The reason that I'm voting no, to make it abundantly clear, is it's been brought to my attention that even though they've negotiated this price of an $8,000 fee, Bratwurst Festivals went out and hired a private company to take care of all the trash. They went out and hired a private company to take care of all their safety and security. Why the hell are we charging money for things that we're not even going to be providing them? That's
new information there, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is,
All new.
Okay, so the motion fails. Any other open projects from any of the three of you?
No, good for now.
Vicki?
I'm sorry.
Any open projects?
No.
Okay. Public participation.
And just, I'm sitting here. Is there not something in Robert's rules about going back to your vote?
Motion to reconsider?
Yes.
Yes, I believe it has to be the next meeting, though. I can look into that if you want.
Okay, if you would, because, I'm sitting here after reading everything that I typed, I guess I really didn't want to say, no, I don't want to charge the Bratwurst Festival. I do want to charge the Bratwurst Festival. However, I'm not happy with the $8,000 figure, because the actual figure works out to $17,000 some odd dollars. But I guess it's all a moot point if in fact what we're being told is the city is not providing any services to the festival.
I didn't say that.
Oh, excuse me, okay.
I said trash and cleanup and safety and security. I don't know if that was 24 hours or if that's overnight. That wasn't specified to me. But they have hired private security and they have hired a private trash and cleanup company.
Well, then that begs the question, should administration be getting back with us and letting us know where is this standing? I mean, are they still of a mind that they want legislation, or if we're not?
I just goes back to the same thing. I've said somehow this got dropped through the cracks somehow. Don't know how, don't know where, but somehow it's got dropped through the cracks. And for me, the only reason I voted yes is because this is a year-to-year thing. And I was under the impression that this was a deal that was done and we had financed it, or finished it. Or I would have voted
And
yes.
you're correct, the administration did come to an agreement with them at that $8,000
Right.
number.
Okay, so you're gonna check into, Mr. Goldberg, the
Yes. Motion to reconsider?
motion to reconsider, and
Sure
then
will.
to let me know, because I guess, and I apologize, I should be more up on this. What I'm trying to do is say, I mean, I do want to charge them, but I'm not happy with the $8,000 figure. So if I am saying I voted no, then I voted no to that piece of legislation.
Can't you just simply make another motion?
Have they informed
So, can I
administration?
interject? I'm so sorry. There is and what he's looking at is 111, there isn't one that says we can do it up to through the next meeting. You can reconsider within the same meeting when you have new information. There's no limit on the reconsideration within the same meeting. You can do it from this meeting into next meeting.
Kevin, have they notified the administration about any of this?
I do not know the answer to that.
That's,
I would all-
it's news to me. It's like,
I don't know. You'd like to think they would have.
I would hope so.
And so the legislation would be authorizing and directing the service safety director, I'm looking at an old one, to enter into an agreement with the festival to provide necessary safety forces and cleaning services and reimbursement for costs associated with rerouting, well, we don't have that with this time, at a cost of $16,500. So this is to enter into an agreement for the festival to reimburse the city at a cost of, and then this would be $8,000. And I will apologize, to you people sitting here and my constituents that I'm in a brain fog here right now. My thing is I want to charge the festival for any services that the city is providing. However, I'm not happy with the $8,000 negotiated figure.
now we don't know if we're provided it or not.
Well, yeah.
So do we even do this step or make this motion?
Then if the contract was signed, there should be an out clause.
Yeah.
So it looks like you can't renew a motion at the same session unless there's a change in wording or circumstances sufficient to present substantially a new question, in which case this becomes technically a different motion. So I would say based on the discussion, that's substantially a new motion.
Circumstances.
Yeah.
Floor is yours.
I got a question. Can this be tabled to the next one? So we find out some more
Could be.
information?
That's up to you three.
We can still pass it as an emergency if we have to. But at this point, I would think that the Roberts Festival would have got a hold of us by this time.
Do you wish to do anything with it tonight, or do you want to wait until?
We could wait until we've checked with the administration and find out what discussion they have had with the festival and what the city is providing, if anything. Thank you.
The information that you had, though,
Pardon?
the information that Kevin had would have been nice to have.
It wasn't given to me by the city.
I know, but it would still been nice to know that before.
Anything else, Ring?
No. Good.
Yeah, where's the meat locker at?
Public participation now.
Kurt Fankhauser, 1415 Michigan Drive, and I will commend you, Vicki, for standing and voting no on all the pay raises. I think you're going to be on the right side of history when this is all looked back on regarding that.
Just so you know, I voted the way my constituents were contacting me and what they were telling me. It's not me personally.
And that's the same thing that my constituents were telling me too, but I don't get a vote in most situations. I was listening to the discussion about the pool, not a property tax levy, an income tax levy. And it's projected to bring in over 200,000 from what I seen the numbers that the safety service director had put in one of his reports. When I heard that number, I felt this is kind of high. Where's all this money going? And, because I was under the assumption that the pool operation was around about 100,000 a year, not 200 and some thousand a year. And then, did you have updated information?
Oh, no, sir, there's a nap.
Oh. And then I heard Mr. Myers say earlier here tonight in regards to that pool levy, well, maybe this can pay for everything, you know, including the internet and stuff. And I started to think, is that what the big plan is here, is to, because there's been a significant amount of donation towards that pool. I'm not going to say who donated it, but, you know, and that was done to help save the city money, to help, you know, so that the taxpayers wouldn't have to be dipped into. So is that what the plan is here, is part of this levy is going to go towards like internet, cameras, security stuff with that levy?
The service director, he's the one that put the numbers together and brought them to us. When I said that, I was really just trying to think of any and all costs associated with running the pool.
Okay, I'll talk to the service director at some point. So we're in the finance committee meeting right now, okay? It is June-ish, 2025, very early on into the year. I think Mr. Mee referred the entire 2025 budget back to finance committee. We're almost halfway into this thing this year, and there has really been no substantial discussion regarding the 2025 budget, yet alone any cuts to the 2025 budget. And that 2025 budget has a $300,000+ deficit. So I don't see any effort for saving money going on with this finance committee, with the council as a whole, and yet they're wanting another levy. So essentially, the message that's being sent to the voters is, this is a tax and spend council. We're going to tax you, and we're just going to keep on spending that money. We're going to keep on giving out them raises. And, you know, if you guys think you're going to pass another levy without making cuts before that levy, I think the voters are going to have the last say in that. Thank you, and have a good night.
You as well, thank you. Any other public participation?
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. So I was just messaging to get confirmation. The consensus between administration and the festival, from what I've said, and obviously you guys can double check this, was that the 8,000 was for the services that were not fire or trash and security. That's the confirmation I just got. And secondly, I've been rattling my brain to try to figure out the deficit and where to make cuts to. I would love to hear people's suggestions as a council person and as a citizen. Secondly, I think every time that we get, oh, I'm wrong, I'm being told I was wrong, so sorry. Hold off on that. I must have misunderstood about the 8,000. But secondly, it's really hard when there's plans and the administration is trying to work on ways of finding cuts, and they're continuously undermined in making those cuts. Like telling people that, like, I think there was one, something to do with the police department, and I won't go into specifics because I don't know what is exactly public knowledge, but there was an opportunity to reduce the police budget. And those cuts were undermined by members of this council, and I won't go into specifics, but they're not on this committee. So I just find it very ironic. Like, we just need to be all team players and let people try to figure things out and stop trying to create chaos in this situation. We just all need to find a way to work together, to listen to our constituents, and to brainstorm instead of grandstanding and pulling the rug from underneath. So there was an opportunity to cut the budget, and I believe the person that came up here and cried about it was the one that undermined that entire process. So it's just really disheartening. So let's do better for everyone. Thank you.
And can I just explain, I think, a little bit about the pool and how that works? So if you guys ever take a look at your detailed trial balance, Fund 255 is the swimming pool fund. If, this is going to be kind of informational and boring. So when our income tax office brings in an income tax payment, they break it down between the street levy fund, the safety forces fund, and the general fund, and then we revenue those in to those specific funds. So if a pool levy were to pass, we would add another account line onto that when they send it over to us. So we would revenue it in under that 255 fund. So all money would be spent from that levy specifically in that fund. And to Mr. Fankhauser's question, if a portion of that would go toward internet, that would fall under a contractual service. And if the legislation is written to encompass contractual services, yes, it would cover the internet, but solely in the swimming pool fund. And I don't believe I see anything about cameras unless that would fall under pool outside contractors, but I don't believe it would, as this year is budgeted 0. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. Did you figure out Tommy's numbers yet on the pool?
I have not, I don't know if I've received the spreadsheet from those numbers.
Because he came up with some numbers that you were confused the last time we talked about the pool.
I did a quick calculation the night, so I didn't know till, and I'm not saying it in a bad way or anything, I didn't know till very soon when it was referred that it was being referred. And I ran some quick calculations that night, and I believe if we were off, it was by a couple $1,000s, not by a huge amount of money.
Well, the big thing was what Tommy Starner was saying. He was trying to raise enough money to actually get the pool fixed too.
Yes.
He was actually looking at getting the baby pool fixed and getting the pool upgraded. There was also, some people had come to me and asked me, why don't we move the splash pad up by the pool to where the recirculating system would be better, but it would be outside the fenced-in area, which I kind of agree with that. That would be good, because if we had security and whatever we needed lighting up there, it'd all be lit. The other thing, I got a couple more questions. So if we're going to fund this South Sandusky sewer and stormwater project, and we're going to have to go out and get loans, how much is this going to cost the residents in the long run? That's what I'd like to know. Second of all, with the property tax going to be on the November election, how's this going to affect the city with property tax? I would like to know, because a lot of people are asking me that question, is if the property tax goes away, how are we going to fund the city of Bucyrus? How's it going to be funded? All with income tax, or is it going to be assessments, or what is it going to be? The other question I have too for this finance committee is the cost of the new system for the income tax. You know, it was stated by Kaylee that just to regenerate it over to the new system was $6,000. And that didn't include the cost of the new system yet either. Have we got a figure on that yet?
We had to send them an email indicating our interest, and they're supposed to be sending us something back.
So the other issue too is, it was brought up to me by some people that why don't we just go with Rita and let Rita come in and do all our income tax like other cities do, like Gallant and some other a lot of cities do, and just have another company run our income tax department. The other question I too have for this committee is, are you guys all aware of House Bill 280? It is going to be gangbusters on the city finances. 280 is being proposed again for the second time out of the House. And basically it is for police and fire pensions. And basically fire departments right now, their pension plan is at 24%. And the police are only currently at 19.5%. And with this, they want to upgrade the police pension part of it to 24% over a 5-year period. Okay? That's going to be gangbusters on our general fund. Okay? Especially when we have 2 current property taxes that are only what? Less than 3 mils? And not even 3 mils, it's 0.03 mils. That bring in less than $45,000 a year for police pension, and the other one is for fire pension. And I know we're paying more than $45,000 a year for pensions. So that's still on the books. So the things are is why aren't we looking at ways to cut the budget? Why aren't we revisiting this? And I've asked Mr. Myers the same question many times. Why aren't we calling a special finance committee and actually letting constituents come in and actually, because personally, I think we were denied the last time. And we've been denied twice in my book. Once back in December, and one when it was supposed to be about the budget and not about the water lines. So I think this needs to be revisited. And I'm going to keep on coming up here because a lot of people have talked to me and let me know that they think that there should be cuts. There should be ways to find, and I brought it up the last time, and I think Kaylee kind of looked surprised when I said, we need to find ways to save money, and we need to bank that money for projects. Because now we're looking at a, $5.1 million major project that we're going to have to go out and borrow money for. And I'm sure you're going to assess that against our stormwater and sewer rates. It's going to have to be that. People aren't going to be happy about that. That now we're looking at more heights. And we still don't know what's going on with the wastewater treatment plant and how much more money is that going to cost the residents of this town. Now going back onto the pool thing just for a moment. So if it's an income tax, I have no problem, okay, with that. I will support the pool, okay? The only thing that I would say is not everybody in this town pays income tax. Okay, you only have 4,000 residents in this town that pay income tax. So how are you going to make it fair to all of them?
Somebody, it may have been you, but somebody brought up the suggestion that when you file your tax return, you could get your pool pass as well.
That's me.
Okay.
That's
I know I heard it and I liked it, so.
Yeah, I brought up the fact that if you filed income tax, okay, and that includes people that don't live in the city, that live out there, work at the courthouse, work here at City Hall, or wherever, as long as they pay income tax, they should have a right to that pool because they're paying for it. They don't get to vote for it, but they are paying it, and I think that should be a given. So that's some of the things, but I think this finance committee needs to really sit down because we're getting into 6 months until the end of the year. Are we going to run out of money or not? You know, Kaylee keeps saying, oh, the money's there, but those are only predictions. They're not etched in stone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Craig. Any other public participation? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 9:42 p.m.